Welcome to the Northwest Sports Fanatics YouTube channel. I am your host, Orion. I got a great show for you here today between the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners. First pitch is going to be here in roughly 10 minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get into the starting lineups. Happy Thursday, everyone. And on the thumb, on the left, Detroit's very own Spencer Torkelson. And on the right, one of the best center fielders in the game, it's J-Rod Julio Rodriguez. Now let's get into the starting lineups here first for the visiting Detroit Tigers. Leading off for the Tigers at third base, Kevin McGonigal. Batting second, playing second base, Gleyber Torres. Batting third, catching today for the Tigers, Dylan Dingler. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, left fielder, Riley Green. Batting fifth, DHing for Detroit, Colt Heath. Batting sixth, playing first base, Spencer Torkelson. Batting seventh, playing center field, Max Clark. Batting eighth, playing shortstop, Javi Baez. And batting ninth, playing right field, Zach McKinstry. And on the mound for the Tigers, the former Astro, 6-7 record, ERA of 4.41, Framber Valdez. And now let's get into the starting lineups for your Seattle Mariners. Leading off for the Mariners, the former Angel and Oriole right fielder Taylor Ward. Batting second, playing left field, Randy Arozarena. Batting third, DHing for Seattle, the Italian Stallion Dominic Ganzone. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, center fielder, it's J-Rod Julio Rodriguez. Batting fifth, playing second base, Cole Clutch Young. Batting sixth, playing first base, Weston Wilson. Batting seventh, catching today for Seattle, Johnny Pereda. Batting eighth, playing third base, Leo Rivas. And batting ninth, playing shortstop, Colt Emerson. And on the mound for the Mariners with a 4-5 record, ERA of 2.80, it is Bryce Miller. Tridents up, let's go M's. We're going to be shooting for 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. '50th anniversary for the Seattle Mariners, 40 plus years on the radio for this legend and icon. He's retiring after this season, so we dedicate every stream to the one and the only Rick Riz. We love you. And as you look at the lineup today, obviously it's not a strong lineup, and I would probably say we're going to fight today. You know, we don't have Naylor in the lineup, who had issues, obviously, with Keider Montero when he threw out his shoulder head in June. Framber Valdez is a dirty pitcher. We already know Hinch was the manager for the Astros when they had the scandal in 2017. So, again, you know, it's probably better to be able to have your weaker guys up if we're going to fight. And obviously, we don't have Brendan Donovan in the lineup, Josh Naylor, or Cal Raleigh, who ended up getting hit in the stomach from that altercation that happened yesterday. So Gabe Spire, 3-game suspension. He's going to appeal that, which is bullshit. Dan Wilson suspended for a game. which is, what we assume that would have happened. And then Emmanuel De Jesus, the one that started it all, no suspension. So I'm not, surprised one bit. And again, Keider Montero in June ended up throwing at the head, shoulder area. He didn't get suspended against Josh Naylor. So I'm starting to think, that this rivalry with the Tigers might have overtaken our rivalry with the Astros, and this is probably public enemy number one. So don't be surprised if the fists come out here today. I would assume Framber's going to hit, one or two of our guys, and we'll see if we end up retaliating again. But again, I would be very shocked if we don't fight today. And Manny Acta stepping in as obviously interim manager for a game. Gabe being suspended for 3 is insane. And again, sometimes they end up catching the second guy, but it was pretty clear, that De Jesus was going at Cal's stomach. And anytime you get hit in the stomach or in the back or the head, it's intentional more times than not. Sometimes a wild pitch is a wild pitch. And again, seeing the lineup, Cole Young should lead off. But again, if they're going to throw at our first guy, we don't want that to be Cole Young. We cannot afford to have Julio or Young get hurt. So that's why they have Taylor Ward leading off, just in case Framber throws at our first batter, and then we have to end up clearing the benches and we end up fighting right away. Or it might be calculated, and they may end up throwing at Julio, trying to injure our best player, or Cole Young. So again, the lineup with Ward leading off, that normally is not going to be the case. Normally it's going to be Cole Young as of late. Obviously, you got Weston Wilson filling in for Naylor. Obviously, Naylor has got into it in June, with this team. And then Cal ended up getting hit in the stomach yesterday. Obviously, you got Pareda coming in. I think it's all calculated. And then you got Brendan Donovan not playing. So I really honestly believe with no Naylor, no Cal Raleigh, and no Brendan Donovan starting, it is potentially because we might fight right away. And on top of that, with the Bizzardo situation blowing, 6 games out of 7, maybe we should have ended up having Bizzardo come in and end up beating the batters instead of Gabe Spire. If you know that you're going to end up throwing at someone, you might just throw the guy that, obviously doesn't have the stuff. And they ended up going Gabe first and then Bizzardo. And what happened? Bizzardo ended up blowing another opportunity. 6 out of the last 7. It feels like it's going to be 7 out of 8, 8 out of 9, 9 out of 10. And again, the Astros, we have a big rivalry with them, but I think with us beating, this team in the ALDS Game 5, this is public enemy number 1. And again, we obviously are not afraid to step up and stick up for our teammates, our manager, and the city, as well as the players. So we'll see. But I would not be shocked if we end up getting into a benches clearing fight here today, especially with Framber Valdez on the mound. He is one of the dirtiest players in the game, and he's been that way since the Houston Astros. So I don't want anyone to get hurt, but again, if we got to throw some bows and it fires up the team, as long as we don't have too many suspensions, I'm up for it. Golf in the building, what's good? All day in the building, what's good? C and Hawks in the building. Dark Passenger and Jace in the building. And again, got the refrigerator delivered early, thank God, around 10 a.m. So I was able to get a few walks in. Obviously the smokiness of the wildfires in Oregon and Washington is still out there. But today has been a little bit more clear where I actually could see the sun instead of just a orange or red glob in the sky, which is nice. And again, I'm looking forward to this, and it makes it a little bit more enticing, that we do have Framber Valdez, obviously on the mound. So looking forward to seeing what ends up happening here this afternoon. Alex in the building, what's good? Let's go, baby. First pitch is going to be here in just a minute or two. But crazy, with Gabe getting a 3-game suspension, he's appealing. It probably should only be like a game or 2, but nothing for Emmanuel De Jesus, who started it all. We're never going to start a fight, but we'll finish one, and De Jesus threw at Cal. It seemed intentional in the stomach. Anytime you get hit in the stomach, the back, or the head, it is what it is, but no suspension there. Dan getting suspended for 1 game, which is kind of standard. And then it even goes back to earlier in June where Keider Montero threw at Josh Naylor's shoulder head area. No suspension for him either. And again, I don't like the Astros. And obviously I feel with, the cheating, and everything with the garbage can and everything else, I think that's a league-wide, type of thing, not just Mariner fans and teams in the AL West. I feel the Angels, the Athletics, the Rangers, and Mariners do not like the Astros, but I don't think anybody likes the Astros besides Astro fans, right? And then obviously now with this Tiger kind of scuffle, not only going back to last year, but this year, I think they've leapfrogged the Astros because we haven't really been able to, jaw at them or, have any benches clearing issues. So I think right now, Tigers public enemy number 1, Houston Astros number 2. But again, I'll be surprised if it ends up being a clean game. Obviously, if we can end up winning that, great. But we do have a weaker lineup potentially because the benches clearing fight could happen. And we'll see if we end up getting, Brendan Donovan, Cal Raleigh, or Josh Naylor into the lineup potentially after maybe some bows get thrown. So we will see. Try to dance up. Let's go, Ems. Got to get some offense today, and I believe that we will. Yeah, definitely glad I'm here. I was a little nervous about, am I going to be able to get started in time? And starting it off is going to be the rookie phenom, Kevin McGonigal. And on the mound, it's our ace. It's Miller time. Bryce Miller, 4-5 record, ERA of 2.80. First pitch with the four-seam fastball is a ball, 1-0 count. And I am curious to see the kind of chemistry that we're going to be able to get with Miller, obviously with Johnny Pareda, who should have been on the team since May. Four-seam fastball high and away. 1-0 pitch, another four-seam fastball high and away. 2 balls and no strikes from Miller to McGonigal. Two-0 pitch, high and inside. 3 balls and no strikes from Miller to McGonigal. Three-0 pitch. Finally getting the strike there on the corner. And obviously getting that, mid 90 mile an hour, 94, 95 mile an hour heat. And a four-seam fastball there, high and inside. 3 balls and 1 strike from Miller to McGonigal. 3-1 pitch. And that ends up being a 5-pitch walk. And hopefully Miller will be able to settle down. Brett in the building, KW in the building. Let's go. And first batter there, the rookie phenom, Kevin McGonigal, on a 5-pitch walk. Hopefully Bryce will be able to settle down and settle in. Next up is Gleyber Torres, who tried to, talk some shit to Cal Raleigh. And I don't think you want to be fighting someone like Cal. First pitch in there for a strike with a slider, 0-1 count. 87 miles an hour. Oh, 1 pitch. Popped up into right field, fading out of play. Back into about the 20th row out there. Great souvenir for a fan. No balls and 2 strikes from Miller to Gleyber Torres. Try dance up. Let's go, Ems. You're shooting for 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Shout out to our female audience, as well as our new subs, our regulars, our mods, and everyone watching in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Asia, and beyond. 0-2 pitch. Popped up and out of play. Four-seam fastball, 95 miles an hour there by Bryce Miller. McGonigal at first on a 5-pitch walk. Hopefully we'll be able to get a few double plays. And again, we have a weak lineup in. Potentially, I assume to benches clearing brawl could happen today. But again, we'll see. If it ends up happening, it's going to happen because of Framber Valdez. It's not going to be because of us. So if Valdez ends up hitting us, that could end up starting it. Pitches low and away with a sweeper, 84 miles an hour. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Miller to Gleyber Torres. And we're never going to be the instigator, but again, if you're going to hit us and try to cause a fight, we'll definitely step up to the challenge. Just ask the Angels from a few years ago. We're not afraid. 1-2 pitch, low and away. Sweeper missing there. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Miller to Torres. 2-2 pitch, low and away. Bryce kind of had a hard time, painting the corners here a little early, but again, hopefully he'll be able to get into a good rhythm. But the Gabe Spire 3-game suspension is being appealed. Dan Wilson is serving his 1-game suspension today. We definitely have a much weaker lineup than normal. Taylor Ward is never a leadoff hitter, but that's potentially Framber hitting the first batter, and we don't want that to be Cole Young. So that's why, Cole is in the 5, not leadoff today. And then you got Weston Wilson filling in for Naylor. Obviously, Pareda in for Cal. And then you got Leo in for Brendan Donovan, and that is definitely calculated. 3-2 pitch. Popped up. And caught. And you got Weston Wilson at first base. Taylor Ward there in right field making the catch. And that is 1 away. Next up in the 3-hole is catcher Dylan Dingler. On deck, the dangerous defender and offensive stud Riley Green. Dingler has had a very incredible season. One of the best catchers in baseball this season. Obviously with Drake Baldwin on the Braves and Shea Langoliers, who just recently got hurt. Big swing and a miss there by Dingler. Big swing and a miss. 0-1 count, 4-seam fastball, 95 miles an hour. High and inside, 0-1 count. Top of the first inning, 0-0 Tigers and Mariners here at T-Mobile. Runner at first, McGonigal. And obviously we need this win, but again, we don't want to have too many of our guys get suspended and whatnot if we do end up, having the benches clearing brawl. But again, I don't think it's going to be necessarily us that's going to start it, but we'll definitely finish something, if Framber Valdez wants to start it. And we already have bad blood with his team going back to last year, beating them in ALDS Game 5. They haven't forgotten. 0-1 pitch, low and away. Splitter missing there. And we got Johnny Pareda, finally on the squad catching. I would like to see Johnny, DH, once in a while over Taylor Ward if possible. He was doing pretty well in May before we sent him down. And then coincidentally, once we sent Pareda down instead of Garver, we stopped hitting. Coincidence? I think not. 1-1 pitch, low and at the knees. 4-seam fastball missing there by Miller. 2 balls and 1 strike with a runner at first. McGonigal with a 5-pitch walk earlier with 1 out. 0-0 here early between the Tigers and the Mariners. Jordy in the building, what's good? Jerry in the building, what's good? 2-1 pitch. Popped up. Deep right field. And gone! And Dingler hitting another homer again. And just like that, having an all-star type of season, 2-0 Detroit. And again, Bryce really hasn't been the same pitcher since he started off 3-0 with a subpar 2 ERA. He has been struggling lately. He doesn't have the same stuff as he did initially. And Dingler obviously is one of the top 3 catchers this season, and he's showing why. Not only homering yesterday, but also homering today. And we're going to have an uphill battle, obviously, with a lower tier lineup today as well. But we got to limit the damage. Next up in the 4-hole, left fielder Riley Green. On deck is Colt Keith. Not exactly the start that we wanted, but again, I'm not surprised. Again, Bryce, was electric, to start off, with a 3-0 record with like a 1.80 ERA, 1.75, and things have progressively gotten a little bit worse, since then. It doesn't really have the same, location and stuff. Still a very good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but, he has been, kind of coming down to earth, so to speak, after that, really strong start. 1-0 pitch, big swing and a miss. No, takes a strike looking. 1 ball and 1 strike from Miller to Green. 1-1 pitch, splitter inside. 2 balls and 1 strike to Riley Green. No, Gabe Spire, 3-game suspension. He's appealing. It'll probably go down to 1 or 2. Dan Wilson, 1-game suspension. He's doing today. But De Jesus, nothing. And Kiter Montero in June throwing at Naylor's head, nothing. So it seems a little bias, and whatnot. But again, if we end up having a benches clearing brawl, Cal and Donnie and Naylor not in the lineup initially, potentially due to, Framber hitting us, and we don't want any of our stars to get hurt initially. And that's also why Cole Young's batting 5th, not leadoff. We can't afford Cole Young or Julio to get hurt. So I think this is public enemy number 1. It used to be the Houston Astros, but now it's the Detroit Tigers, no doubt. Pitch fouled off there by Riley Green. 2 balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and 1 out. 2-2 pitch from Miller. And a hard hit ball into deep right field and fair ground rule double. Tough. And not a very good start here with a very weak lineup in today. And Bryce Miller looking like Luis Castillo here early. Come on, Bryce. But it's crazy that the Tiger players, aren't getting suspended when they do something, and, they are the ones that are starting it, and then we're retaliating. And, I get it. Sometimes the second guy gets caught, like in football, one guy throws a punch and the second guy throws a punch and the ref sees it. And then the second guy, ends up getting suspended or thrown out. But, these are the type of things, if you have ABS, and you're being able to go over things, De Jesus should have been thrown out, and, he should have been suspended as well. But, this goes back, obviously, to the ALDS Game 5 that we beat the Tigers last year. And not only that, in June, Kiter Montero threw at Naylor's shoulder and head, and he didn't get suspended. So, again, we're going to have an uphill battle, but hopefully Bryce can limit the damage, and we're only down 2-0, and hopefully these will be the only 2 runs Bryce gives up for 5 or 6 innings. Let's hope for that. Splitter in there, low and at the knees, 1-0 count. Try dance up. Let's go, M's. 1-0 pitch, high and inside with the splitter missing. 2 balls and no strikes from Miller to Keith. We still got a chance, and obviously they don't have all of the stars in potentially, because Framber might start something, and but that doesn't mean that you can't throw bows or a punch, with a benches clearing brawl just because you're not starting. Guys can fight, whether they're in the starting lineup or not. So we'll kind of see how it plays out here. Two-one pitch, foul back to the T-Mobile bricks. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Colt Keith. And a line drive into right. And this is more than likely going to score how many? At least 1. And Miller looking terrible here today. 3-0 Detroit. And a big RBI there by Colt Keith. Come on, Mariners. What's your question, Hawks? Yeah, but there's a difference between hitting someone in the stomach, the back, or the head, and then Gabe hitting someone in the leg, It's like, I don't think I've seen anybody hit in the stomach in years, and obviously that's a dirty play. Obviously can a wild pitch end up hitting someone in the back, the stomach, or the head? Of course, but this is the Tigers. Hinch is a former Astro manager. Framber Valdez is a former Astro. This team has got dirty written all over them. And we obviously have a history with Astro players and managers on top of now this Detroit Tiger team. So 1-0 pitch, low and at the knees, and Bryce is all over the place. 4-seam fastball missing. 2 balls and no strikes to Spencer Torkelson. But again, hopefully the bats can come alive. And I'm very curious to see how Framber, ends up pitching this game, because he has a history of not only hitting Mariner players, but players on other teams in general, and is one of the dirtier, pitchers in the game. That's just common knowledge. 2-0 pitch, finally getting a strike in there, forcing fastball. 2 balls and 1 strike with a runner at second and 1 out. Top of the first inning, 3-0 Detroit. But probably should have had Bizzardo hit, Gleyber Torres rather than Gabe, considering how terrible he's been lately. Blowing 6 out of the last 7, opportunities coming in. Because obviously if Bizzardo gets suspended, who cares? He's been pitching shitty, but you don't want Gabe getting suspended when he's our number 1 in the bullpen, besides Mooney as our closer. So, can't really trust Bizzardo or Ferrer at the moment. And, Brash, Criswell, and Vargas cannot join this team soon enough. 2-2 pitch, low and away. And this is crazy, man. Bryce cannot hit the strike zone. Can't paint the corners. Just getting roughed up. And again, not the same pitcher when he first came back from the injury. He definitely is, so to speak, come down to earth and kind of looks like, R5, out of our 5 starters right now. 3-2 pitch. And another walk for Bryce Miller. Yikes. But I do think the Gabe Spire suspension will be appealed, and it'll get dropped down to a game or 2. And now we already got Ferrer warming up in the bullpen. And again, once in a while, Gilbert and Kirby and Wu and Hancock and Miller will have meltdowns. But again, the way that Miller played early in the year, he was our number 1, right? And to see him go from being our number 1 now to being maybe our 4 or our 5, it's a little scary, but hopefully the offense will be able to pick it up unless we end up having a fight, and, we'll see how that goes. That'll be all on Framber. One ball and no strikes with runners at first and second and 1 out. And throw to second. And safe. Yeah, definitely one of the worst outings of the year for Bryce Miller. I mean, we've seen him be electric, for, 8 to 12 Ks and, no hitter going into 5, 6, 7 innings in. But this is not the same Bryce Miller, that we had earlier in the year. No question about that. 1-0 pitch, big swing and a miss. But again, we're in an uphill battle. That's kind of how our season has been. And, we're just going to have to hope that the offense can hopefully get going. Even though we do have our weakest lineup potentially of the year, anticipating maybe Framber trying to injure our guys at the very beginning of the game. No Cal Raleigh, Pareda in for today, obviously getting hit in the stomach, yesterday by De Jesus. Naylor has issues with this team going back to June. Obviously, Weston Wilson is playing first, and that normally is not the case, right? And then no Brandon Donovan. You got Leo Rivas at third, so definitely a weaker lineup. No question about that. 1-2 pitch, low and at the knees. But, still got Julio, still got Cole Young, and those are guys that typically can help us win, but we're definitely going to need other guys to step up other than those two. Randy had a good game yesterday, offensively and defensively, as we have a Mariners challenge here, and a good challenge there by Pareda. And we finally end up getting out number 2. Down goes Clark, and that is 2 away. Next up is Javi Baez. First pitch to Javi, pops up, and out of play. And this Tiger team has got some good players. They may not have a good record, but you got to remember Dingler is, one of the best catchers in the game. Him, Shea Langoliers, and Drake Baldwin were the top 3 by most, pundits and experts based on, stats and what they've been able to do this year. And he's been crushing us lately. And then McGonigal could win Rookie of the Year. So, I mean, they definitely got some pieces, even though Scooball went to the Dodgers. But again, I don't think anyone anticipated Bryce being this shitty. This is kind of like a Luis Castillo meltdown in the first inning, and I don't think we expected this. Big swing and a miss. Low and away. No balls and 2 strikes from Miller to Baez. And a little line drive. Emerson is there. Throw to first. And a throw is a little low there to Weston Wilson, but he scoops it, and that is finally out number 3. And again, we're definitely in a big hole here. And let's see what we have here for the Mariners in the bottom of the first. And we'll find out if Framber Valdez is going to, end up hitting us right away, and we end up fighting right away, or if he ends up being calculated and trying to end up injuring our best players like Julio or Cole Young. Because if he throws at Julio, it's over. There's going to, again, we've already had injuries with Julio with the concussion. We cannot afford for Julio or Cole Young to get hit or hurt, so we will see. Leading off for the Mariners, right fielder Taylor Ward. And hopefully he'll get a few hits, so we'll have a good Mariner photo in the near future. Batting second, left fielder Randy Arozarena, who had a great game defensively and offensively yesterday, the best all-around game of the year for him. And batting third, DHing the Italian stallion Dominic Canzone. And like I mentioned, on the mound, the former Astro, 6-7 record, ERA of 4.41, who has a tendency of throwing at players to injure them, Framber Valdez. And that's not just a biased statement, that's just reality. Ask any fan of any team that's played Framber. He definitely likes throwing at people. And, whether that's, him doing it or AJ Hinch, the former Astro manager, telling him to do it, I'm very curious to see how this will play out. Tigers have some good players. There's no doubt about that. Max Clark feels like he's going to be a good player. McGonigal could end up winning Rookie of the Year. You got Munetaka Murakami and Weatherholt and a few others, in the running. Glaber, the former Yankee. Riley Green is a great offense and defensive player. So, it's not like they are a bunch of scrubs. And again, we played this team in the ALDS, last year. So, shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. All right, here we go. The anticipated Framber Valdez. Is he going to hit our first guy, or is he going to wait for Julio or Cole Young? We'll find out here. First pitch right down the middle. They are ahead 3-0, so they don't necessarily need to hit us, to start a fight. They're already ahead 3-0, so, but again, with Framber, he definitely is a hothead, so you just never know. 0-1 pitch, low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Taylor Ward. And again, normally we have Cole Young leading off, but, based on what happened last night, you don't want Cole to be the first guy, and then he ends up getting hit and injured. He's our, one of our best players besides Julio, so we can't afford that. That's why they have Ward leading off. 1-1 pitch in there for a strike. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Bottom of the first inning, 3-0, Detroit. 1-2 pitch, curveball off the plate. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Valdez to Taylor Ward. 2-2 pitch, little slow dribbler towards third base and foul. But again, the Tigers are number 1 public enemy, number 1, and Astros number 2. And, obviously we fought the Angels a couple years ago, but we don't really have, a lot of beef necessarily with the Angels and Athletics as of late, and Rangers, we'll compete with them, but there's not really any bad blood, so to speak. And a little line drive towards first, and that is 1 away. Yes, a Valdez meltdown would be fantastic if we can get it. He's very streaky. When he's on, but when he's off, he's really off. So we'll find out. Next up in the 2-hole, left fielder Randy Arozarena, who ended up having a spectacular defensive game. Running for a foul ball on the wall in the first inning. Throwing a runner out at third. With Brandon Donovan, and then robbing a home run or possibly a double or triple. I've never seen Randy make so many amazing plays in one game, and had a couple hits. So hopefully Randy will be able to do that again here today. 1-0 pitch, high and away. Curveball missing there by Framber Valdez. 2 balls and no strikes to Randy Arozarena. And with them being up 3-0, maybe less likely for us to have a brawl now. Obviously, if Framber hits somebody with a 3-0 lead, if you want to make it intentional, you're already ahead. But again, if it was 0-0, probably more likely for something crazy to happen. But, with Framber, you never know. 2-0 pitch in there for a strike to Randy Arozarena on the line with that sinker. 2-1 pitch, little slow dribbler towards third. And that ended up being a foul ball there by the ump behind the plate. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Valdez to Randy Arozarena. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Blue Jay in the building. What's good? 2-2 pitch. Inside. Good take there with a sinker. Low and at the knees. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Valdez to Arozarena. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. 3-2 pitch. And a hard hit ball towards third base and out of play. Curveball there by Framber Valdez. 77 miles an hour. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and 1 out. Bottom of the first, 3-0 Tigers. Bryce Miller with a meltdown, in the top of the first. And we have our weakest lineup of the year. Again, no Donnie, no Cal, no Naylor, but again, we'll see if Framber ends up trying to hurt one of our guys or not. And that ends up being a pitch inside. Good take by Randy. And we got Randy at first. Donkey in the building. What's good? 1 out and 1 out. Next up is Dominic Canzone. On deck is Julio Rodriguez. First pitch into Dom, low and away with the sinker. 1-0 count. Not the start that we wanted, but it's still something that we can come back from. As long as it doesn't get above 5 runs, that's usually our cutoff. 1-0 pitch, takes a strike looking low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike with a runner at first, Randy, who took a walk with 1 out. Bottom of the first, 3-0 Tigers here at T-Mobile. Let's go, Dom. See if we can get a Dom bomb and have it be 3-2 and get right back into this immediately. 1-1 pitch popped up and out of play. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Dominic Canzone. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And again, we're not, a team that's going to, intentionally try to hurt someone, but if someone comes at us, we'll definitely retaliate. 1-2 pitch, line drive, double play, throw to first, and no play there. Fielder's choice. Glaber and Randy there at second base, and that is 2 away. Next up in the 4-hole, center fielder, it's J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez. On deck in the 5-hole, second baseman, Cole Clutch Young. And again, if we're going to end up winning this game, with no Cal, Naylor, or Donnie in the lineup, it's got to be Julio and Cole Young kind of setting the tone with a few others stepping up as well. Let's go, Julio. Big 3-run blast yesterday when the score was 0-0. And a lot of the games that we've won, as of late, it's been because of Julio and Cal, as well as Cole Young. So we'll see if we can get some good production here today. First pitch is low and out the knees with the curveball, 76 miles an hour, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, and a hard hit ball by Julio, but caught at third base. What a catch. And that is out number 3. All right, let's go to the top of the second inning and see who's up next here for the Tigers. Appreciate you, Giovanni. End of the first inning, 3-0 Tigers. Next up for the Tigers in the top of the second inning, in the 9-hole, right fielder, Zach McKinstry. Batting second, 0 for 0 with a run and a base on ball, third baseman Kevin McGonigal. And batting third, 0 for 1, second baseman Gleyber Torres. Tridents up. Let's go, M's. 83 subs to go. Do 24,600. We'll start waiting for our first dono on our dono train. And we'll see where we're at on the likes here early on. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Shout out to our female audience, our new subs, our regulars, our mods, and everyone watching in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Asia, and beyond. We're at 54 likes, 46 to go. All right, Mariner Moose has got to come out early today. All right, come on, Ems. Got to have that blind faith, when things go wrong. And, as every Mariner fan knows, in 2026, things have gone wrong a lot. So, first pitch from Miller to McKinstry, takes a strike looking right down the middle, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, fouled back to the T-Mobile Bricks, four-seam fastball, 95 miles an hour there by Bryce Miller. No balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and no outs. Top of the second inning, 3-0 Detroit. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful stadiums in baseball. And a little slow dribbler towards first, toe tap on the bag. Nice job by Weston Wilson, and that is 1 away. But again, there's a lot of them that, have that, history, with Dodger Stadium and Wrigley Field with the Cubs and Yankee Stadium, even though it's a newer stadium as a few years back. And, a lot of them end up having some props, out in the outfield or skyscrapers or bridges. And, it kind of just depends on the views. But again, there's a lot of beautiful stadiums out there. And, obviously being a Mariner fan, I love T-Mobile. And, again, but there's a lot of others out there that might be a little bit more appealing, to the eye, as that slow dribbler goes right up the middle there. And Miller giving up another base knock. And the rookie phenom, Kevin McGonigal, first pitch with a line drive up the middle. And he's got a really good chance of winning Rookie of the Year. J.J. Weatherholt on the Cardinals, as well as Munetaka Murakami on the White Sox. It'll be very interesting when it comes down the stretch. Next up is Gleyber Torres, the former Yankee. Michael with a tenor. Appreciate you. Michael's getting us started. First pitch is fouled off, high and inside to Gleyber Torres, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, high and away, four-seam fastball missing, 1 ball and 1 strike to Gleyber Torres. Appreciate you, Michael. Michael with a tenor to get our ball rolling here on the Dono train, 90 to go. Shout out to Michael. Top of the second inning, 3-0 Tigers. And again, not exactly the start that we thought we were going to get out of Bryce Miller, but Dingler with a big homer to center with McGonigal on board, and then Colt Keith obviously doubling to right and scoring Riley Green. This team's got a lot of good players. Little slow dribbler up the middle, off the sweeper, throw to first, and time, and that is 2 away. And again, remember, we got Leo Rivas instead of Brendan Donovan playing third, so this is definitely a weak lineup. You got Rivas at third, you got Weston Wilson, at first, you got Taylor Ward in right field, so it's not really ideal, but again, we will see how it all kind of plays out. I mean, we're a home run dependent team, so all it takes is one, 2-run jack or 3-run bomb, and we're right back in it, or even a solo dinger just to try to, get the ball rolling, so to speak. First pitch in there to Dylan Dingler, who's been crushing it against the Mariners, had the home run last night and another home run today. One of the top 3 catchers in the game this year, with Drake Baldwin on the Braves as well as Shea Langoliers on the Athletics. But Dingler doesn't get as much respect and love as he should, but we'll definitely give him that respect here. Line drive and another base knock there by Dylan Dingler. And again, runner is coming home and safe. Back to first and safe. 4-0 Tigers. And then sometimes all it takes is like a really good player, to kind of, set the tone. And we had Cal Raleigh last year, so we understand what it's like to have a catcher that's dominating the game. And Dingler is doing his best impersonation of Cal Raleigh this season, and he has been awesome. Next up is Riley Green, another really good player offensively and defensively. We got to be able to, limit the damage here, but don't be surprised if Miller gets pulled pretty soon. But the problem is if you pull Miller and you bring in like Ferrer, the same thing could happen. And then the best guy that we have in the pen, Gabe Spire, even though he appealed the suspension, 3 games, I assume he'll be available, but I don't know if we're going to have Gabe come out after, hitting Gleyber Torres yesterday. So probably not. That pitch goes out of play. Nice souvenir for those fans out there in right field. Top of the second inning, Mariners already down 4. A little slow dribbler up the middle, and he takes it himself. Bryce Miller, toe tap on the bag, and that is out number 3. And again, as long as it ends up not being more than 5 runs, but again, with a weaker lineup, it definitely will be challenging. And McCovey Cove with the Giants is definitely a beautiful ballpark for sure. All right, let's go to the bottom of the second inning, and we got to get going. Hopefully we can end up getting going here in the 5-hole. My favorite player on the team, not named Julio Rodriguez, second baseman Cole Clutch Young. Batting second in the 6-hole, first baseman Weston Wilson. And batting third, getting his chance to start for the first time since May, catcher Johnny Pereda. And we just got to be able to get 1 or 2 runs within the next 3 or 4 innings, and we'll be just fine. But that's also assuming that we don't give up anymore, and that might be tough. 83 subs to go to 24,600. We're at 10 on the Dono train, 90 to go. And let's see how close we are on the likes. We should be over 50 at this point. And we are at 60, 40 to go. Max the Cat getting the Dono train started. Appreciate you. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And again, we're going to need a little bit of everything. And obviously with Framber Valdez on the mound, I assume that's why we ended up having the weaker lineup. We don't want Cal or Naylor or Donnie, to get hit and injured, especially after already having issues with this team yesterday and then having Framber, probably the pitcher most likely to hit someone in the league, playing in the next game. We'll see how it all plays out, but obviously, it's definitely an uphill battle with Bryce putting us not in a good spot. First pitch, high and inside to Cole Clutch Young, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch, low and at the knees. Good take there by Cole Young. 2 balls and no strikes from Valdez DeYoung. But also, it's not 0-0 right now, so obviously there's no real reason to throw at us and injure us. You're up 4-0, but again, knowing Framber, he's kind of a hothead. You just never know. But hopefully no one gets hit. I mean, what happened yesterday, and, if someone does, hopefully they don't get hurt. Takes a strike, low and away. 2-1 pitch from Framber. And a little dribbler that goes behind the plate to the T-Mobile bricks and the Muckleshoot sign. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Valdez DeYoung. Try dance up. Let's go M's. Plenty of time. Again, the Astros and the Rangers and Mariners have not been great this season. And, all it takes is, end up, winning 2 games out of 3, in a couple series, or even getting a sweep at some point and having the other teams lose a few games. And all of a sudden you climb back, towards the top of the standings. So, a couple tough series for them, maybe an easy series, or maybe we overachieve against someone that maybe we shouldn't beat. And then all of a sudden you look at the standings and everyone's kind of neck and neck, with a tie, or, maybe 1 game above or below. So we'll see. Count now is 3 balls and 2 strikes to Cole Clutch Young. 3-2 pitch, low and at the knees, and a beautiful take there by my favorite player on the team, Cole Clutch Young. And again, sometimes you got to be able to know when to swing, and when to take, pitches. And Young has figured it out. Hopefully his teammate, Colt Emerson, rookie, will figure it out at the end of the year as well as next year. Nice job, Cole. Now we got Cole at first. Next up is Weston Wilson, and we could definitely use one of these right now. On deck is Johnny Pareda. But the game is far from over. But again, if the pitching keeps being shitty, yeah, it could end up being over in the next few innings if we're down, 8-0. But hopefully we'll be able to get on the board before something like that happens. And as long as we can get 1 or 2 runs within the next 4 innings, and they don't get that many more, it'll still be an uphill battle, but it will still be in it. A little slow dribbler up the middle, double play, and unfortunate double play there by Weston Wilson. And that is 2 away. We've already hit into a couple of those already. And that kind of was the, thing that happened yesterday before Julio hit that 3-run bomb. But at that point, the game was 0-0. Mike in the building. What's good? I mean, we already have 30 teams, so you would have to have 2 teams get, expansion, like with the NBA, with the Sonics and, whoever they decide to bring in with them and whatever city that they choose. Seattle's going to get one, Supersonics will be back. And then whether it be Nashville or Vegas, that gets the other, but again, with 30 teams, you can't have it being uneven, with 31, it would have to be 32 more than likely. But, just the way that the divisions are broken up now, I don't think we're going to have any new, cities and whatnot. So pitch fouled off, out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike from Valdez to Pareda. Yeah, but that's just the way that it goes. They know they can funnel a lot of money there, so they could have as many teams as they want. They got the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, as Brett, they move there, right? And, you could have WNBA, you can have soccer, you can have hockey, basketball, baseball, football, you can have it all, obviously with gambling being, legal, obviously in most states now. And that was kind of the reason why that they didn't want to have a lot of teams in Vegas originally, because of the corruption and the cheating and whatnot. But I mean, you're still going to get corruption and cheating whether gambling's legal or not, as we know, with referees and players throwing games. 2-2 pitch, low and away. And that got on the edge supposedly, and that is strike 3 for Johnny Pareda. That looked a little outside, kind of wondering why we didn't challenge there, but it is what it is. All right, let's go to the top of the 3rd inning and see who's up next year for the Tigers. Next up for the Tigers, 1 for 1 with an RBI, DHing Colt Keith. Batting second, 0 for 0 with a base on ball, first baseman Spencer Torkelson. And batting third, phenom rookie, 0 for 1 with a center fielder Max Clark. Tridents up, let's go M's. We dug ourselves in a hole. And obviously, starting pitching with Bryce Miller, not good today, but and a weak lineup, one of the weakest lineups of the year, based on anticipating a fight and not wanting to have Cal and Naylor and Donnie out there and getting injured. But, maybe they didn't anticipate the Tigers getting 4 runs on Bryce. But again, we will see how it all plays out. 83 subs to go to 24,600. We're at 10 on the Dono train because of Michael and Max the Cat. Appreciate the two of you. And let's see where we're at right now on the likes. We're at 64, 36 to go. Yeah, I mean, again, I've been a fan of this team for like 40 years, and obviously this is the, best that, as far as roster in the last 2 years, it's the best that we've ever seen besides our 2001 team. And it's going to take time. Obviously this season has gone completely wrong. We've had a lot of things, injuries, poor managing, guys being a little bit worse than expected, with Wu and Kirby and Mooney, even though Mooney's turned it around. And, obviously we could, gladly get rid of Dan Wilson and DePoto and whatnot. But, I hope, in the next 20 years, we'll be able to make 1 or 2 World Series since we've never been to one. We may not win the first time that we go, especially if we play the Dodgers. But, I think as far as talent, we're just as talented as anybody, but it's just, can we put it together? And obviously, Cal Raleigh hitting 60 home runs and, not a lot of injuries last season. Everything went right last year. And we went to ALCS Game 7 and barely lost. If we had Brian Wu healthy, we make the World Series, and who knows what happens. More than likely, the Dodgers still win, but you never know. And then, obviously, this season, injuries, poor play, poor managing, everything has gone wrong this year. But again, if we can get through this year and still make the playoffs, we can get through anything. This has been the most challenging year the Mariners have had in probably the last 10, 20, 30 years. So, especially with the talent that we have. So we'll see where it goes. But again, we know the Rays and the Yankees are good. Guardians and White Sox are good. And then the AL West stinks. And somebody's got to win the division between us, the Astros, and Rangers. So we'll just see where the chips fall. American League stinks this year, and so anything can happen. 2-2 pitch, a little slow dribbler, flip back to Bryce Miller, toe tap on the bag, and down goes Colt Keith, and that is 1 away. Next up is Spencer Torkelson. But I love this team no matter what. When we're good or when we're bad, I'm still going to watch every game, every pitch from beginning to end. I mean, we had a 20-year gap where we had no hope of even smelling the playoffs, and I still would root on this team and love this team. So again, if you're a fan of a team in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon or Washington teams, you got to be mentally strong. It's not for the weak. And again, you got to go through a lot of misery and pain before you get the joy. And again, this year has not been what we expected. But even with that being said, anything can happen since the American League is down this year. 1-1 pitch to Torque, and Torque pops it up. Deep center field. Julio's there, and back to the wall and caught. No fly zone. Nice job there by Julio Rodriguez getting the job done, and that is 2 away. J-Rod squad cheering him on. Next up is Max Clark. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. First pitch is high and away, 1-0 count. One 1-0 pitch, popped up, Julio is there. No fly zone, and that is out number 3. All right, let's go to the bottom of the 3rd inning and see who's up next here for the Mariners. And again, if we can just get a solo dinger, or get a run or two on the board, and us hope that the Tigers, don't score anymore, or if they do, maybe only 1 or 2 more. And, all it takes is 1 inning, for a pitcher to have a meltdown and then a bullpen pitcher to come in and have a meltdown, and you can get right back in it. Sometimes all you need is a guy to get walked, a guy to get a single, and then boom, Julio hits a 3-run jack. We're right back in it like yesterday. So, again, it always is easy to be negative, when things are not going the Mariners' way. The Mariners and life are hand in hand. Life is not fair, for the Mariners or life in general. Things are going to go wrong. It's all about how you react and, try to be as positive as possible. And then eventually, things will work out more times than not. Sometimes we're going to get blasted. There's no doubt about it. But again, we do have a lot of resiliency to come back as long as we don't get down by more than 5 runs. And that's usually the cutoff. Now, have we been able to come back, from 6-7 runs down? Yeah, but that's only going to happen maybe once or twice or 3 times in a season. So. Next up in the 8-hole, 3rd baseman today, Leo Rivas. Batting 2nd. In the 9-hole, shortstop Colt Emerson. Great home run last night to give Mooney that insurance. And batting 3rd, 0-for-1, right fielder, the former Oriole and Angel, Taylor Ward. But I wouldn't trade, my teams for anything. And again, that's what makes it, fun not to be a bandwagon fan, because then you get numb to the wins. You want to make sure you cry. You want to make sure you have pain. You want to pull your hair out, scream at the TV, get pissed off. And then eventually, have moments of joy, and last year was amazing. And again, I don't think that's going to be the last time, where we're going to have joy like that. And obviously the season didn't end the way that we wanted. We wanted to make the World Series and we got real close. But let's be honest, how many people actually thought we were going to make it that far last year? The goal was to win the division, hope that we can get to the ALDS, but no guarantee that we would get past that point. But we did against this Tiger team, ALDS Game 5. Right. And then we made it, all the way to ALCS Game 7. And, again, if Wu was healthy, that would have been the difference. Wu could have pitched 3 games, in a 7-game set, whether it be in the ALCS or the World Series. And we didn't have access to Wu, who was our number 1 pitcher. So, again, tough break, but it was a real awesome season to call and watch. And I don't think it'll be the last one that we have like that. But you got to go through the ups and the downs and the peaks and the valleys, just like in life, just like for the Mariners. Really awesome season last year, really hard, challenging, season this year. But even with that being said, it's not like we're 20 games, below, first place. We still actually have a chance. As bad as we played, we still have a chance to make, the playoffs. So, it's kind of nice that the AL is down this year. Because if the AL was normal, yeah, we might be screwed, sitting, who knows how many games back at that point. 0-2 pitch, low and at the knees, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Leo Rivas. Let's go, Leo. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 1-2 pitch. And Rivas pops up into foul territory towards first base, and that is 1 away. Torkelson is there. And so far, Framber not doing anything intentionally dirty, probably because they have a 4-0 lead. But if the game is 0-0 right now, or if the Mariners are up 4-0, maybe that's a little bit different of a story. Next up in the 9-hole, shortstop rookie phenom Colt Emerson. And I'm really missing J.P. Crawford and Luke Raley. Rumor is that Luke might be out for the year. I hope he's not. And J.P. hopefully will be back sooner than later. And first pitch to Emerson, flied out into right, and that is 2 away. Next up, leadoff hitter, right fielder Taylor Ward. On deck is Randy Arozarena. And I'm so proud of what Randy did yesterday, getting that foul ball, in the first inning towards the wall and the fans, that kind of set the tone. Then he ended up throwing a runner out from left field, which I've never seen him do all year, to Brendan Donovan, as we get a hit there by Taylor Ward. Nice job. Second hit in a Mariner uniform. Nice job, Tay. Tay, I see you. And then also robbing that potential home run or double as he jumped on the wall. It looked initially like it was a home run, but after the replay, it probably would have hit the top of the wall and bounced in play for like a double. But 3 amazing defensive plays in one game for Randy on top of a couple hits. If we could get that version of Randy every game, I would say re-sign him and have him come back to the team next year, but we'll see if we end up signing Randy again or letting him walk. Now, if Randy ended up being the everyday DH, that would solve all the problems, but I'm not sure if he's willing to do that role. I know he likes playing left field, and he's good at pop-ups, but ground balls is still an issue. First pitch in there to Randy, Dom on deck, and a little slow dribbler up the middle, and a little light throw to first, and that is out number 3. Let's go to the top of the 4th inning. We're down 4-0, and again, something's got to give. Kind of unfortunate that Bryce had to really shit the bed today. It would be nice if it was like 1-0 or 0-0 right now, kind of like yesterday's game. But with Weston Wilson, in, for Naylor, Pareda in for Cal, and obviously Leo Rivas in for Brendan Donovan, to have 3 of our top 5 guys, not available today, it definitely makes it tough to win. Next up for the Tigers, 0-for-1 shortstop Javi Baez. Batting second in the 9-hole right fielder Zach McKinstry, 0-for-1. And batting third, 1-for-1 with 2 runs and a base on ball, the rookie phenom that might win Rookie of the Year, Kevin McGonigal. Him, J.J. Weatherholt on the Cardinals, as well as Munetaka Murakami on the White Sox are usually in the top 3 as far as, rankings. But again, things can change between now and the end of the year. Tridents up, let's go M's. 50th year anniversary for the Seattle Mariners, 40 plus years on the radio for this legend and icon. He's retiring after this season, so we dedicate every stream to the one and the only Rick Riz. We love you. Shout out to our female audience, our new subs, our mods, everyone watching in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Asia, and beyond. We are global, baby. 4 runs, 5 hits so far there for the Tigers, and obviously a lot of those, were in the first inning, 3, 1 in the second. And again, we just need to hope that Julio and Cole Young can help us get going. That's a great running back to be a fan of. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, to be able to see Bo Jackson and Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, and, to be able to see the Joe Montanas and the Jerry Rices and, the Deion Sanders. It was a very special time to be able to grow up. If you were alive, to be able to see, the talent that the NFL had back in that time, no doubt. And some of the best athletes and wrestlers to ever live, played or wrestled in the 80s and 90s. Some felt larger than life, and again, not to say that we don't have some of those now, but it definitely was a very special era for sports and wrestling in the 80s and 90s, and it'll never be duplicated. 0-1 pitch, low and away with the sweeper. 1 ball and 1 strike from Miller to Baez. 1-1 pitch, hard hit ball towards third, and foul. And obviously, I rep the Mariners, I rep the Kraken. I live in Oregon, so obviously I rep the Blazers, but I'll do Sonic streams once the Sonics come back with the Blazers. But obviously Blazers, and obviously if I lived in Washington, everything would be Seattle. It'd be the Huskies, it'd be the Mariners, the Kraken, the Supersonics. But obviously since I live in Oregon, it's Ducks and Blazers, and then Mariners and Kraken. But my NFL team is the Buccaneers, because I never really had a connection. I'm a defensive-oriented fan, and I never really had a connection with Seahawk defensive players. I didn't want to hop on the Niner bandwagon with Montana and Rice. I did love Bo Jackson, and Junior Seau on the Chargers, and obviously Bo Jackson on the Raiders. But I didn't really want to hop on those wagons either. And then in 95, Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks got drafted. John Lynch was there. I love Mike Allstott, Rondé Barber, and it just kind of made sense for me, based on the defense. And, I've been a Bucs fan since I was 13, and I'm 44 now. So, and again, it was rough. Obviously, they were a good team early on, and it took a while until we got Gruden to get the job done. And then obviously getting Brady and Gronk and Antonio Brown and Bruce Arians, that was a shock. I did not think that was going to happen. And that second Super Bowl was a little shocking, but again, you just got to stick with your teams and never know what could happen. Throw to first, and a nice out there on Javi Baez. Great throw there by Colt Emerson, and that is one away. But that's the only team that I root for that's outside of Oregon and Washington. And honestly, if the Seahawks had, defensive players like Sapp and Brooks and Lynch and Barber, or had like a Mike Allstott type of guy on offense, yeah, I definitely would have been a Seahawk fan. But I do follow every Seahawk game. I watch every game. I always, am in tune to what they're doing. And they killed it last season, and obviously in their 50th anniversary, we saw how dominant they were against the Patriots. And I'm excited to see what they end up doing this season. And I'm also excited to see what the Huskies do with the Cougs and the Ducks and the Beavers, and I'm one of those rare breeds that I actually wish success for all Pacific Northwest teams, just not when they're playing each other. I want to see the Huskies do well. I want to see the Cougs do well. Hell, I even want to see the Beavers do well. It's just, I want to see the Kraken and, make the playoffs. I want to see the Sonics come back and kick ass and have Kevin Durant come back. It's, again, it's either, you're a Pacific Northwest fan or you're not. And obviously I get it. There's a lot of heated rivalries where you hate the rival, whether it's in-state or out-of-state. But, I'm a little bit different, based off my fandom. I'm more defensive-oriented, and I think most fans are offensive-oriented. If you're going to buy a jersey, most people buy an offensive jersey. For me, I'm the opposite. I'd rather buy a defensive jersey, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, or hockey. And I feel defensive-minded fans are like 5%. 95% are offensive-minded. Not to say that I don't like offense. I do, but I really appreciate great defense because it takes a hell of a lot of effort, in basketball and football to shut down an opponent, or, obviously in hockey and baseball, it takes that extra effort and grit to be able to be awesome at defense and at offense in the NHL or the MLB. 2-2 pitch, popped up there by McKinstry. Rivas losing it in the sun and can't get to it in time. If that was Brendan Donovan, he probably makes that play. Yeah, Hardy Nickerson. I mean, there was a few guys, back in the day, Doug Williams, obviously before he ended up going to the Redskins and, winning his Super Bowl. And, Hardy Nickerson, obviously, was one of the guys that was kind of known before they were known, right? Yeah, Sapp, Simeon Rice, Derek Brooks, John Lynch, Rondé Barber. I mean, what can you say? And then on top of that, Mike Allstott, and again, I know a lot of people that played Madden, chose that Bucs team for those reasons. Pitch flied out into left, and Randy is there, and that is out number 3. Yeah, Hawks defense is badass, and that's what I love. I love badass defense, and again, especially when you can get a good D-line, a good linebacking core, and a good secondary, but also, having a defensive-minded coach, if you're able to get one, it's a different type of mindset compared to an offensive-minded guru, and those guys can win, Super Bowls and natties as well, but something about, shutting down your opponent and being able to get pick sixes and fumbles for touchdowns, and really intimidating the other squad on top of your offense being good on top of that, it really does change the game. And obviously having a badass special teams too. 1-0 pitch, high and inside to McGonigal. 1 ball and 1 strike from Miller to McGonigal. But again, if the Seahawks would have had Sapp, Brooks, Lynch, Rondé Barber, Simeon Rice types, oh, for sure, everything would be Seattle for me for the most part. So, and again, if I lived in Washington, everything would be Seattle. But, since I do live in Oregon, then it's going to be a little bit of a combo of both. So, and I didn't want to be a bandwagon Niner fan. I've seen a lot of those in Oregon, with the Joe Montana, Jerry Rice thing. Now, do I love Joe Montana and Jerry Rice? Of course. Those guys were insane in the 80s, 4 Super Bowls. But I had a feeling that they were never going to win again. And that is strike 3. Great job there by Bryce Miller, finally getting out of the inning. And it looks like he's settling down a little bit. But, even, Steve Young, when they ended up getting their championship against the Chargers, in 94, I felt like that's going to be the last one the Niners are going to win. And I didn't want to hop on that bandwagon. We know Montana ended up winning the 4. Steve Young got the monkey off his back with Jerry Rice. But again, I had a feeling that if I was a Niner fan and I hopped on that bandwagon, like, look at me, 5 Super Bowls, that they were never going to win again. I thought they would get to Super Bowls again, but I had a feeling that they never would win again. And I was right. And, a lot of Niner fans are, obviously still a little salty, like Cowboy fans, kind of living in the past of the glory in the 80s and the 90s. Cowboys winning 3 out of 4 years and Niners winning 4 in the 80s and 1 in 94. But, sometimes you got to find what you connect to. And defense is what connected me to the Buccaneers. And, I'm proud to say that, they're 2-time Super Bowl champs, like the Seahawks. We both came in at the same time, in 1976, go figure. And both got 2 rings, and very excited to see what the Seahawks do next season. Legion of Boom, baby. And again, if the Legion of Boom was around in the 90s, I definitely would have been a Seahawk fan. There's no doubt about that. That would have changed my opinion for sure. All right, let's go to the bottom of the 4th inning and see who's up next year for the Mariners. Next up for the M's, the Italian Stallion, DHing Dominic Canzone. Batting second in the 4-hole center fielder, Julio Rodriguez, 0 for 1. And batting third, 0 for 0 with a walk, second baseman Cole Clutch Young. Trident's up. Let's go M's. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And McGonigal strikes out swinging. And again, Bryce kind of settling down. Obviously hasn't given up any runs in the last 2 innings, but putting us in a 4-run deficit is not ideal. But, all we need to do is get a run or 2, and we can feel a little bit better about ourselves rather than being down 4-0. So absolutely, they'll take care of Baker. Obviously right now with Vita Vea and Baker, that's drama that I don't need or want. Neither does the team. Already losing Mike Evans to the Niners, that hurt my soul, right? Levante David retiring hurt my soul. And then we got to make sure we take care of Baker and give him the money. He's the best quarterback that we've had since Brady. And, he's a perfect fit, based on his demeanor and his swag and his maturity, from, being a Heisman guy and then going to the Browns where no one's going to succeed. And then, going to the Panthers and then the Rams. And, I want, Baker to be our quarterback until he retires if we can. And Vita is already one of the top 2, nose tackle defensive tackles in the game. We can't let him go. But again, it is a business and we'll see what happens. But hopefully they don't trade Vita. I don't think they will. He will be disgruntled though. And they want, to figure it out. But you can't lowball Vita Vea and Baker Mayfield. Those are 2 of the best players on the team. And, normally they don't do this. So it's a little shocking that they're trying to lowball, 2 of my favorite players. But, hopefully they'll figure it out. And, hopefully the Bucs will end up winning the NFC South and we'll see what happens. Defense still has a long ways to go, but the offense should be pretty exciting. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Dominic Canzone. Yeah, but Mike always gets injured. That's what, his hamstrings are string cheese, and we knew that in Tampa. He's not going to play a full season, but even if he only plays, 10 or 12 games, he can still get 1,000 yards and 10 or 12 touchdowns. But if he plays a full season, he can end up getting, 14 to 1,700 yards and maybe 15 touchdowns or more. But, with his age and, injuries with the Niner players in general, it won't shock me if he ends up missing some time and already injured, like you mentioned, which I knew that as well. 2-2 pitch. Big swing and a miss, unfortunately for Dominic Canzone, and that is 1 away. Next up is Julio Rodriguez. And we got a real tough schedule here, obviously, in August. It gets much better in September, but Julio, line drive over the head. Yes! Nice stop by Julio Rodriguez. Nice single, baby. The one player that we can't win without. If Julio's at DH, it's not as good. But when Julio's in center field, we always have a chance, offensively and defensively. If Julio's out of the lineup, the chance of winning a game is almost 0. It definitely feels that way. He's that important to the team. Nice job there by J-Rod. But Baker was immature on Oklahoma, and immature in Cleveland, but he's really matured. He's gotten married. He's got a couple kids. He's a great fucking leader. And he played, if you guys watch Quarterback on Netflix, he played hurt with major injuries the whole year. So no wonder we started off fast and then we kind of sputtered at the end of the year because he was banged up. And we had a lot of guys banged up, and you don't realize how injured certain guys are because they usually keep it secret. And then a lot of times you never even find out how bad they're hurt unless there's a documentary like Quarterback or Receiver that comes out, and then you find out, oh my God, like the injuries were really serious and he was tough and he played through them. So, but again, I want Baker and Vita back, no doubt. 2 balls and 1 strike to Cole Clutch Young. First 2 pitches with the sinker and curve low and away, and fouls off that one on pitch number 3 with that sinker. 2 balls, 1 strike with a runner at first. Julio Rodriguez with 1 out. Bottom of the 4th, 4-0. And a little dribbler up the middle, double play. God, 3 double plays today? Are you kidding me? Just bad luck today, And again, normally we'll hit into maybe 1 or 2. Sometimes we're lucky and we hit into none. But if you hit into 3 double plays within the first 4 innings, it's going to be a long day. Yeah, crazy that the Buccaneers actually beat the Seahawks last season, based on how great the Seahawks were at the end of the year, but they didn't really start peaking, until like week 11, and then from there on out, they were unstoppable. But prior to that, there was a few teams that were able to get some wins, but they're not a lot, but it was, kind of a cool thing to have that back and forth, game between the Hawks and the Seahawks and the Bucs for sure. All right, let's go to the top of the 5th inning and see who's up next here for the Tigers. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Next up in the 2-hole, second baseman Gleyber Torres. Batting second, having a phenomenal series against us. 2 for 2, 3 RBIs and a home run, Dylan Dingler. Top 3 catcher in the game with Drake Baldwin and Shea Langoliers, who's obviously injured at the moment. And batting third, 1 for 2 with a K, another stud, left fielder Riley Green. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. We're at 10 on the Dono train, 90 to go. Shout out to Michael and Max. 83 subs to go to 24,600. And let's see where we're at on the likes as we go to the top of the 5th inning. We're at 77, 23 to go. Yeah, no defense in that Bucs-Seahawks game, but I mean, look at the offensive pieces. JSN and Kenneth Walker III and Baker doing Baker things. I mean, sometimes that's just how it goes. If anything, the Seahawks should have probably shut down the Buccaneers. But again, when you start rolling, with your quarterbacks and, running backs and receivers and your play calling is on point, sometimes it ends up being a shootout, even if one team's got good defense and the other one doesn't, because obviously we haven't had a good defense in a minute, but I'm hoping that hopefully Bain will get Rookie of the Year, who looks amazing. And again, that jersey's going to sell, and hopefully that'll give us another Simeon Rice, Derek Brooks type of player, and I'm looking forward to it. 2 balls and 1 strike to Gleyber Torres. Top of the 5th inning, 4-0 Tigers. 2-1 pitch, popped up and out of play. 4-seam fastball there. 2 balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and no outs. Top of the 5th inning, 4-0 Detroit. Shout out to Reggie. South Africa in the building. Yeah, so for my teams, I've been a Blazer fan and a Mariner fan since the mid 80s, like around 85. And then obviously with the Kraken when they started, I didn't want to hop on any bandwagon NHL team. And then when the Kraken got announced, I said, oh, that's cool. Let's represent that. And then obviously, with the Ducks and the Huskies and following obviously everything there, that's, long time ago in the 80s and 90s. And obviously 95 was the last team, besides the Kraken as of late, since I was, 13, rooting for them. So, but again, it was Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks getting drafted with Lynch already being there, then getting Barber and Mike Allstott. And I was like, wow, these guys really suit my personality. And Tigers challenge. And just barely on the corner. And that is confirmed. And that is one away. But again, to get 2 first-round picks on defense, and they both made the Hall of Fame. I mean, think about how rare that is. It just doesn't happen. Or even to get 2 Hall of Famers in general in a draft. The Ravens were able to do it as well. If you can get guys like Jonathan Ogden and like Ray Lewis and, obviously guys like Ed Reed and, it definitely takes a special, GM and a little bit of luck, as well to be able to, get Hall of Famers, let alone 1 or 2 in a draft. First pitch, big swing and a miss there by Dingler, who's been hitting homers off us left and right yesterday and today. 0-1 pitch, big swing and a miss. No balls and 2 strikes from Miller to Dingler. Yeah, and it's kind of cool to be able to see Husky and Duck players on the Buccaneers. So it obviously is easy for me to, root for guys like that. Vea from, the Huskies, Bucky Irving, Tez Johnson from the Ducks and whatnot. Big swing and a miss. High and away. Down goes Dingler, and that's unusual. We usually are seeing home runs by Dingler, but nice job there by Bryce Miller getting Dingler to swing and miss, and that is 2 away. And again, after giving up 4 runs in the first 2 innings, Bryce has looked good here, but again, we haven't got the offense to do their part just yet. First pitch with the knuckle curve to Riley Green, 0-1 count. Oh, 0-1 pitch, popped up and out of play. No balls and 2 strikes from Miller to Green. Oh, they absolutely will. I mean, they had a lot of amazing players. The Legion of Boom with Earl Thomas III and Camp Chancellor and, Sherman and then obviously, with Wagner. I mean, if you look at his stats year in and year out, even at the back end of his career, he's usually one of the top guys in tackles still, as of late. So, I mean, obviously it takes special players to be able to make the Hall of Fame, but the Seahawks definitely have had a few, over the years for sure. And then maybe some that, haven't got in yet, but will. Pitch fouled off, high and away, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Riley Green. 1-2 pitch, little slow dribbler towards first, and foul. And Wagner, what's so impressive about him is he should have never left Seattle, but it's a business. Sometimes teams want to move on thinking that they're not going to be able to keep up the production. But, no matter where he's at, the Rams or, Commanders, no matter what team he's on, he's always a dog. And, that's something that, can't be taught. You either have it, in you or you don't. And, definitely a special player that I always enjoyed watching for sure. Love the Legion of Boom, but Bobby Wagner is a true 101. Facts. All right, let's go to the bottom of the 5th, and can we please get on the board? Just even a run, just to kind of get us going. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Next up for the Mariners in the 6 hole, 0 for 1 first baseman Weston Wilson. Batting second, 0 for 1 with a K, catcher Johnny Pareda. And batting third in the 8 hole, third baseman 0 for 1 Leo Rivas. Trident's up. Let's go M's. But, I'll do Husky games, Ducks games, really, really good top-tier teams like Indiana, Ohio State, and, Bama and Georgia. Obviously, all the NFL, teams, Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night. We'll do a little bit of Kraken in the NHL, a little NBA with Blazers and Sonics when the Sonics come back, as well as highlighted games on ESPN that are global. Little NASCAR Cup Series, little WWE, little AEW, maybe some UFC and boxing. So this is kind of your one-stop shop, as far as sports and wrestling. There's a lot of streamers out there that really only do one thing that they're good at or one thing they feel comfortable with. But here, there really is nothing off limits as far as sports and wrestling. Anything can be done as long as it's worth, streaming. And, obviously that gives people a reason to come back, not only, for the Mariners, but, for anything that we decide to do here on the channel at a very high level. Let's go to the bottom of the 5th, 4-0 Detroit. Shout out to our female audience, our new subs, our regulars, all our mods, and everyone watching in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Asia, and beyond. I appreciate you. We're at 10 on the dono train, 90 to go. And I'm a big, linebacker guy. Obviously Derek Brooks is my favorite player of all time. Love Levante David. Love safeties as well, with John Lynch and obviously with Antoine Winfield Jr. now. Appreciate the corner game with Rondé Barber. Obviously the fullback position is obsolete now, but Mike Allstott will never be replicated ever again. What a dog, what a horse, incredible player. Running over guys left and right, obviously D tackles and, guys on the edge are exciting as well, like Simeon Rice and obviously guys like Warren Sapp and Vita Vea. So I've been incredibly blessed, by, picking the Bucks, when I was, 13 years old, because I didn't want to, be a bandwagon Niner fan. And I just wish that, if the Seahawks had the Legion of Boom back in the 90s, yeah, I definitely would be Seattle pretty much everything. But, unfortunately, they didn't really have the defensive presence. And again, the Niners had the offense, but they didn't really have the defense. They had a few guys that were entertaining. Like I like Dion on the Niners in 94. I feel like that's the swag Dion. You look good, you feel good, you play good before he went to the Cowboys and won another ring there. But, Dion on the Niners for 1 year wasn't good enough for me to pledge my allegiance to that team for the rest of my life. So, and I had that hunch that they were never going to win a Super Bowl after that, and I was right. Little dribbler, throw to first, and a nice strong throw by McGonigal. Down goes Weston Wilson, and that is 1 away. Joe Montana's and Steve Young's can't be replicated. You've had Kaepernick and, and a few of these other guys, to get there, but just not good enough to go all the way. So. Yeah, Cam Chancellor, always laying the wood, and, popping guys. And I like guys that hit hard. The NFL is a little bit different nowadays. It's a little soft. They're trying to protect the quarterbacks, but I get it. CTE, it's real. We don't want guys to have that or have brain damage and whatnot, and you're taking a risk when you play. As that pitch is fouled off by Pareda. No balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and 1 out. Bottom of the 5th, 4-0 Tigers. But, the old school game of the 70s and the 80s and 90s, I miss it. The crazy hits and whatnot. But, again, I understand why, the rules are the way they are now. 0-2 pitch, little slow dribbler there by Pareda. Throw to first, and that is 2 away. But, love me some linebackers. Urlacher, Ray Lewis, Derek Brooks, Luke Kuechly, and there's a few guys that are in the league now that I appreciate as well. But definitely a linebacker guy, definitely a safety guy, and I really, really do enjoy, good corner, D tackle, nose tackle, and edge play as well. But definitely a linebacker safety guy. And that's not really a common thing for, I think a lot of NFL fans. Usually it's quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and whatnot. Not necessarily defense, but first pitch is high and away to Leo Rivas, 1-0 count. 1-0 pitch in there for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. from Framber Valdez to Leo Rivas. And I'm glad that Framber isn't doing anything dirty. I mean, they're up 4-0. There's no reason for them, to hit one of our guys to injure, Julio or like Cole Young. So I guess on that end, I'm happy that he hasn't done anything dirty, like throw at someone's head or stomach like we had yesterday by De Jesus. I mean, you're already up 4-0, so there's no real point, 2-1 pitch. In there for a strike. Sinker in there. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Framber Valdez to Leo Rivas. Absolutely, I'll be tuning into the Hall of Fame game. I'll be watching it with Paisley. I mean, even though it's a bunch of backups and a bunch of rookies, I've been watching sports and wrestling since I was 3. I'm 44. So, anytime there's something sport related, even though some people might not be into it, I'm a crazy guy that will watch the whole draft. I'll watch the first round and the second and third round, and I'll watch rounds 4 through 7, even though a lot of people don't, if there's something worth watching, I'm going to be about that life as long as I have the time to do it and I can take care of Paisley. So 3-2 pitch. Big swing and a miss. And that is strike 3. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. All right, let's see who's up next here for the Tigers as we go to the top of the 6th. Next up, 1 for 2 with an RBI, DHing in the 5-hole, Colt Keith. Batting second, 0 for 1 with a base on ball, first baseman Spencer Torkelson. And batting third, 0 for 2 with a K in the 7-hole, center fielder Max Clark. Trident's up. Let's go Elms. 83 subs to go. Do 24,600. We're at 10 on the Dono train with Michael and Max. Shout out to you. Appreciate you guys. We're at 1090 to go. And we should be close to 100 likes by now. If you haven't smashed the like button yet, please do. Once we get to 100, it'll get us a chance to get to 125 and 150. If not, closer to 150 to 200. We're at 82. Can we get 18 people to hit the like button out of 169? It'd be greatly appreciated. Yeah, but you got to also realize, if you feel like this team doesn't have any fight today, we just had Cal Raleigh get hit in the stomach. We have no Raleigh, no Naylor, no Brendan Donovan. It's the weakest lineup of the year, and so, on top of that, thinking that Framber is going to injure one of our guys, again, you have to understand the circumstances, when you don't have 3 out of your top 5 guys, playing, and you got a bunch of kind of backups. What do you expect? Did you expect us to, be up 10-0 right now? It's been a team that has had more injuries than any team in the last 40 years. The American League is down, thank God, so we still have a shot. The manager is bad. The GM and, with Jerry DePoto and Dan Wilson, a lot of us wish that they were not here, and they were somewhere else. And a lot of underachieving, guys with, Wu and Kirby early on and Mooney. And then now with Miller and a few others. And, again, it's like when we have our strong lineup, no JP, obviously no Luke Rayleigh. Once we have a strong lineup, hopefully we'll be able to put it together. And also, we haven't been able to have a strong bullpen this year. We had 3 major injuries to Brash, Criswell, and Vargas. When is the last time that you remember that half of the bullpen was AAA guys? It's never happened. So again, and not having Brandon Donovan since the first month and a half of the year, our starting third baseman, and he would have been one of the top 3-4 guys on the team. So, there's a lot of reasons why things have gone sideways besides just poor play, but I would agree that we need a better manager, but again, it's not like Lou Pinella's grow on trees, unfortunately. Big swing and a miss, and down he goes, and that is one away. Next up is Spencer Torkelson. First pitch to Torque, fouled off, out of play, four-seam fastball, 0-1 count. But again, you got to take it one game at a time. Not every game is going to go the Mariners' way, especially if you have a weak-ass lineup and then one of our really good pitchers shits the bed, And again, if the game is 0-0 like it was yesterday, at this point, we can win, right? We saw Julio hit that 3-run jack, and even though Bizardo came in and had another meltdown, giving up a 2-run bomb to Dingler, but we found a way for Emerson to hit another home run and we won. But, you got to have everything kind of line up, and it's been difficult for everything to line up, starting pitching, bullpen, defense, and hitting in the same game. It's not like, this team is like last year's team with minimal injuries and a person on the team pacing for 60 home runs, having a historic record-breaking year. You can't compare last year to this year. It's completely different. 1-2 pitch. Big swing and a miss. Down goes Torque, and that is 2 away. But again, if we can find a way to make the playoffs with this bad team that's been injured and has been underachieving, we can get through anything. It really does show, the resiliency when everything went right last year and we made the ALCS Game 7. Everything has gone wrong this year, and even with that being said, we still have a shot to win the division or get a wild card. So, it's not like we're 20 games below 500 in last place, like the Angels. So, you have to be thankful for that. And again, if you're not mentally tough, to be a fan of a team in Oregon and Washington, then the Mariners are not a team for you. Might need to switch to a team that, you can handle mentally a little bit better, because again, there's going to be a lot of misery and sorrow and sadness and pain before you end up getting the joy. But if you can be strong and stick with it, eventually good things are going to happen, like us going to our first World Series, which we almost made it last year. 2-0 pitch. Hard hit ball out of play. Remember, we had 20 years where we didn't make the playoffs and we had no chance of even making it. So, this is a new regime. Since 2022, things are going to be looking good moving forward. But since 2001, things were dog shit for 20 years. So, obviously we know we're good with that Ichiro year. But since then, there's not a lot to be excited about besides King Felix and Raul Ibanez and Kyle Seager and, a few others. But, 2022 to 2042, things are going to be good for the Mariners. Much better than what it was from 2002 to, 2021, where you had that 20-year gap. So, and even when we were not very good, I still watched the games. I still rooted them on. I didn't lose my love of the team. If anything, it made me hungrier, knowing that one day that we could have guys like Julio and Cal and Cole Young to root for. Big swing and a miss. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Rucker to Clark. Three-two pitch. And shallow center. Julio is there. And that is out number 3. Nice job there by Michael Rucker. All right, let's go to the bottom of the 6th and see if we can get on the board. And a good inning there by Michael Rucker, probably our best AAA pitcher, that's on the squad and deserves to still be on this team. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Next up in the 9-hole, shortstop Colt Emerson with a big home run last night. Batting second, 1 for 2, got his second hit in a Mariner uniform. Hopefully there'll be some good Mariner photos I can attach to Taylor Ward, but for the moment, still in the old Oriole uniform and the former Angel. 1 for 2, right fielder Taylor Ward. And batting third, 0 for 1 with a base on ball, Randy Arosarena. Trident's up, let's go M's. don't know. It's tough to say. Tigers, scored 4 runs in the first 2 innings, but didn't score anything since. And obviously, we have our weakest lineup of the year. Thinking that Framber was gonna, throw at one of our guys and we were gonna fight. So that's why Cal and Naylor and Donnie weren't in the starting lineup, I assume. Because we don't want those guys to get hurt. 0-1 pitch. And a little blooper there by Colt Emerson, my guy. Nice job there by Colt. He's going to improve so dramatically going into next season, just like Cole Young did. Nice job there by Colt Emerson, the phenom. Next up is Taylor Ward. On deck is Randy Arozarena. Yeah, but the thing is that we're not going to trade away Emerson Hancock and George Kirby for a bat. And there really wasn't, anything that was available. Now, if Seiya Suzuki would have been available for like Hancock and a prospect, I would have done something like that. That way we could have called up Cade Anderson, but there really wasn't a lot of, good pieces. If anything, if we would have traded Hancock and Kirby, our team would have gotten worse because we would have gotten lowballed and got shit in return. So, we have enough talent as it is. We just need to get healthy. No JP, no Luke Rayleigh, no Vargas, no Criswell, no Brash. We finally got Donnie back, and again, it's, you just got to build the chemistry, with the team. And if you actually look at the talent of this team, we're just as talented as anybody in the American League. We may not have the best record, but again, talent-wise, we have just as much talent as the Rays or the Yankees or anybody else. It's just about putting it together. And, when you end up having a bad manager and an injury-prone team and guys underachieving, sometimes it's difficult. 1-2 pitch. In there for a strike, and down goes Ward, and that is 1 away. Next up is Randy Arozarena. First pitch right down the middle to Randy Arozarena with a curveball, 77 miles an hour, 0-1 count. Come on, Randy. See if Randy can get a blast here to make it 4-2. And all it takes is one pitcher to have a meltdown and you can get back into a game, even when you're down 4-0. 0-1 pitch. Randy with a little blooper into left and drops. Let's go. Let's go. There we go, baby. Emerson and now Randy with back-to-back hits. Maybe this is the inning that we can end up getting a run on the board, or maybe even 2 or 3. And again, sometimes all you need is just 2 singles or a single and a walk. Next guy comes up and hits a 3-run jack like Julio did, and then you're right back in the game. Next up is Dominic Canzone. On deck is Julio Rodriguez. But sometimes for fans, when you start to see 0 on the board, people just give up. And you have to realize, pitching, the game comes into 2 waves, starting pitching and then the bullpen, and the game resets. So, if you can rough up the starter before he goes out and then get lucky and rough up 1 or 2 of the bullpen guys, you can end up being down 4 or 5 runs and you can essentially come back in 1/2 innings sometimes. So let's see what happens here. We've already hit into 3 double plays today, so hopefully no more. And if we can get a good Dom bomb right here, we're right back in it. You got to have faith, and a lot of Mariner fans are bandwagon, unfortunately, based on what happened last year. You got to be able to stick with it, good, bad, and ugly. Next up is Dominic Canzone. On deck is Julio Rodriguez. The Mariners are like life. Shit is unfair. Things are going to go wrong. How are you going to react? Are you going to be able to be positive as best you can be, or are you just going to be negative? And that's not going to make shit better. First pitch into Dominic Canzone. 0-1 count. Come on, Ems. 0-1 pitch. Big swing and a miss. That would have been a nice double for Dom if he would have got a hold of that curveball. No balls and 2 strikes with runners at first and second and 1 out. And again, how often have we hit into 3 double plays this season? Not often. Only a couple times the whole year. And unfortunately today with a weak lineup we did already. So let's see if Dom can get a hit here. 0-2 pitch, low and away. Curveball missing there. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Framber Valdez to Dominic Canzone. And I'm happy that Framber didn't lose his cool and try to injure one of our guys today. But the rivalry between the Mariners and Tigers is at an all-time high. Tigers 1, Astros 2. 1-2 pitch, and that is strike 3 looking. Come on, Dom, you got to swing, buddy. And that is 2 away. Next up is Julio Rodriguez, and if we can get lucky, maybe Julio can do this, and we can have ourselves a ball game at 4-3. Come on, J-Rod. First pitch low and at the knees. Good take with a curveball. 78 miles an hour there by Framber Valdez. 1-0 count. I mean, of course, nobody likes to, watch their favorite team get their ass kicked, by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 runs, but it's a part of baseball. It happens, but we're also going to be able to, have that in the, the opposite side as well, where we're going to blast the team or we're going to end up being down and we end up coming back and winning. And nothing is more satisfying than that. Pitches low and at the knees again. 2 balls and no strikes to Julio Rodriguez. Crowd standing up, cheering a little bit louder. And let's see if Julio can get a single, double, triple, or home run. Let's go, Julio. 2-0 pitch, low and at the knees. Look at this. Framber having a meltdown. And now if Julio can take the walk or potentially get the big hit, this could be the inning that we can score 1, 2, 3, 4 runs. If Julio can keep this inning alive. And next up is Cole Clutch Young. That's who exactly that you want side by side. Our 2 best players. 3-0 pitch, in there for a strike. 3 balls and 1 strike to Julio Rodriguez. Bottom of the 6th, 4-0 Tigers, and we definitely have a great opportunity to score 1 to 4 runs if Julio can keep this inning alive. Come on, Julio. 3-1 pitch. Should have swung there. Curveball right down the middle, 3 balls and 2 strikes with runners at first and second and 2 outs. And at least we don't have to worry about a double play since there already is 2 outs. We've already hit into 3 today. And let's see if we get a single, double, triple, or home run. Come on, J-Rod. Time is called. Come on, Julio. This is the first time that we've had a runner at second base. We got runners at first and second. We've hit into 3 double plays today. We got our weakest lineup of the year. Bryce Miller shit the bed, giving up 4 runs in the first 2 innings. Something good has to happen before this game is over. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Come on, Julio. 3-2 pitch from Framber. Julio, hard hit ball towards third. Throw to first. And that is out number 3. Framber's at 84 pitches, so he's got to be getting close to being done. All right, let's see who's up next here for the Tigers. But that's a start. Obviously we've been able to, get some guys on base, but sometimes you got to just, patiently wait, sometimes all the way to the last 3 innings. And, we're pretty good in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, but down 4-0 is not ideal, but hopefully we'll be able to get something, here in the 7th. Top of the 7th inning. Next up in the 8 hole is Javi Baez. Oh for 2 for Javi. Batting second, 0 for 2 in the 9 hole, right fielder Zach McKinstry. And batting third, 1 for 2 with 2 runs, a base on ball, and a K, Kevin McGonigal. End of the 6th inning, 4-0 Detroit. $83 subs to go to 24,600. We're at 10 on the Dono train, 90 to go. Shout out to Michael and Max. And we're at 98 likes. Can we get 2 people out of the 186 to hit the like button so we can get over 100? It'd be greatly appreciated. Try dance up. Let's go, M's. Cheese ketchup with the hot sauce. Sounds amazing. Cole Wilcox coming in. Him and Rucker have actually been pretty good for us. 50th anniversary for the Mariners, 40 plus years on the radio for this legend and icon who's retiring after the season. So we dedicate every stream to the one and the only Rick Riz. We love you. Shout out to the mods, the regulars, the new subs, and all the females that are watching all across the globe. And again, everyone watching in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Asia, and beyond. I love you and I appreciate you. I know sometimes, ketchup is kind of like outlawed. Normally it's kind of like a mustard thing, but for me, whether I go to Seattle, and have a Seattle dog or an Ichiro dog, whether it's got the cream cheese and the grilled onions on it, or if I just go straight mustard, straight ketchup and mustard, or sometimes, with some, some beans on there, and whatnot, sloppy Joe style and whatnot, or, just deciding what, kind of depends on the mood, but same thing with my burgers. I don't eat burgers and hot dogs as much as I used to, but I like toppings, so sometimes for me, the more toppings, the better. And other times, I can be a little bit more simple with it. So. Seattle dog, baby. The jalapenos and the onions and the cream cheese. And anytime you say cream cheese, people are like, oh, that's going to be gross, until you have one. And then you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And again, you go up to a Mariner game with the vendors that are outside. That's going to be a hell of a lot better than a hot dog that you pay $8 for that's plain. That could be a soggy bun, and then you have to get your own condiments. And it's much better to be able to go outside the stadium and, end up spending a fraction of the price, getting a chips and a drink and a hot dog that's probably 3 times the size of the one at T-Mobile that you're going to get. And the toppings are incredible. But a T-Mobile in general has good food. Whether you like Asian food or Italian food or American food, or Mexican food, whatever you like, they got a great selection. Not a bad meal, at T-Mobile. It's actually one of the better ballparks for food, across the United States. Facts. 3 balls and no strikes from Wilcox to McKinstry. 3-0 pitch in there for a strike. And again, Wilcox and Rucker have been more reliable than Eduard Bizardo as of late, and Ferrer. Who would have thought that? But again, I'm very excited for Carlos Vargas to come back, Cooper Criswell, and especially Matt Brash. We need them. If we don't have a solidified bullpen, we're screwed. And I'm really happy that we got Donnie back. And again, we're going to be playing the Tampa Bay Rays next, so it's not going to be easy. We're going against the #1 team in the American League, and we got blasted, obviously, last time we played them. 3-2 pitch, and outside with the sweeper by Wilcox, and McKinstry makes his way to first with the walk. That's awesome, and anytime you can end up showing people something new, it definitely can be, life-changing. And then they can pass that on to their family and friends. And then it kind of just never stops. Next up is Kevin McGonigal. First pitch in there for a strike with the sweeper. 0-1 count. Oh, 1 pitch, high and away. 1 ball and 1 strike from Wilcox to McGonigal. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Hard hit ball. Deep right field. Back, gone! And McGonigal with a big home run. And now we're down 6-0, and that's past that 5-run threshold. And again, we have a weak lineup today, so we'd be lucky to score 1 or 2 more than likely at this point. But sometimes this is the way that the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. And I think with like sauerkraut, you have to be like a Reuben type of girl or guy. If you like the Reuben, then obviously you're going to like that, on other things as well. So. I guess giving Wilcox the praise, was not the right thing to say, I guess. But, overall, Wilcox has done okay, like Rucker, kind of filling in. And obviously we saw Davila that did okay for a little bit. Hoppy we traded away. Simpson, not very good. And then Bizzardo's been terrible lately. Ferrer, untrustworthy. And the best one is probably Gabe Spire. But then 3-game suspension has been appealed, so it will probably go down to 1 or 2. But what about De Jesus hitting Cal in the stomach? Nothing for him. I mean, give me a break. 0-2 pitch. Ends up being a ball to Gleyber Torres. 1 ball and 2 strikes with nobody on and 1 out. Top of the 7th inning, 6-0 Detroit. Two balls and 2 strikes to Gleyber Torres. 2-2 pitch. Low and away. Sweeper, 86 miles an hour, missing. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Wilcox to Torres. Three-two pitch, a little dribbler up the middle, and just out of position there for Emerson, leaning a little bit towards third rather than second, and Torres with a single up the middle. And again, obviously with the Rays up next, it's not like we're going to be bringing in our really, star piece, and we don't really have a star piece in the bullpen. And besides, at the moment, maybe Mooney and Gabe Spire. So obviously we'll be saving those, pieces, for obviously later on. And obviously we have to find out, once they reduce the suspension for Gabe Spire from 3 games to hopefully 1. Dan Wilson taking his suspension today, which is probably smart, and then we'll hopefully have a much stronger lineup tomorrow, which I believe that we will. And again, it's going to be tough, no doubt about it, going against the best team in the American League. And the August schedule is brutal. We play a lot of playoff teams. It gets a little easier in September, but we have to stay afloat in August for September to matter. And that's going to be really the question. I agree. That is good, Brett. Also, I like, cornbread. I only get to eat it like usually once a year, type of thing. There's just certain foods, that if you end up pairing things together or end up having it with a meal, it kind of takes that meal to another level. But fresh cornbread, my goodness. I think that's why I like Thanksgiving as my favorite holiday. Family, food, friends, football, but it's the food, the turkey and the gravy and, all the fixins and whatnot, And I like everything. I know some people don't like the cranberry and other stuff, but, for me, when it's that holiday, give me seconds and thirds of everything. And a little line drive into right and make the bleeding stop. And another hit here. And a wild throw. And runner comes home. My God. 7-0 Detroit. And thankfully, we've only gotten blasted like this, about 10, 15 times this year, but that's about 10 or 15 times too many. Bad throw by Taylor Ward in right field. And again, if you're going to end up having kind of a lower tier guy play in right field, that should be Victor Robles. At least we know that he's got speed and he can bunt and you know what I mean? But I don't want Taylor Ward playing over Victor Robles. I know we just got him, but just because you get somebody doesn't mean it's going to fit. I mean, look at Rob Refsnyder and Mitch Garver. Finally got rid of them, but they weren't good fits here. I mean, I don't even want Ward DHing. I'd rather have somebody else. Next up is Riley Green. 1-1 pitch. Big swing and a miss. Four-seam fastball, 96 miles an hour. High and inside, 1-2 strikes with a runner at second and 1 out. Top of the 7th inning, 7-0 Tigers. Unfortunately, the front office is very stubborn, right? So they overpay, for a guy, and they're just not willing to let go or say to the media, we fucked up. They'll never say it, and again, just because a guy was good on one team, Ref Snyder with Boston hitting lefties, doesn't mean that he's going to be good for us. This is the hardest hitting ballpark in baseball, and again, it's wishful thinking that you're going to get someone that was good somewhere else and they're going to be good here. But as we know, as Mariner fans, more times than not, players from other teams that come here, it doesn't usually work out. Usually it works out for the guys that we draft, not guys that we bring in from other teams. We've gotten obviously some good results out of Randy and Luke Raley, thank God, and Dominic Canzone. But, for the most part, it's about homegrown talent, guys that you draft, pitching and hitters. The Julios, the Cals, the Cole Youngs, the Colt Emersons, the Logans, the Kirbys, guys like that, the Woos, the Millers, but not today. And obviously the Hancocks. So, top of the 7th inning, 7-0 Detroit. Oh, 1 pitch. Power Code in the building. What's good? Getting beat up today. Worst lineup of the year, potentially assuming a fight would have happened and not wanting Naylor and Cal and Donnie to get hurt. Fight didn't happen. We didn't get thrown at, and they ended up getting off to a 4-0 lead, and that's probably why. If the game was 0-0, maybe the fight would have happened and Framber would have hit somebody, but no real point of hitting anybody when you're up 4-0 and now you're up 7-0. So, but again, we're going to have a strong lineup tomorrow. And again, we got to get back to where we were yesterday. And I believe that hopefully we will. 1-2 pitch popped up and out of play by Colt Keith. But, anytime you play the number one team, the Tampa Bay Rays, we played the Marlins and Rays back-to-back. We played the Rangers and the Dodgers back-to-back. The schedule makers have not really done us justice, playing, tough back-to-back, series and whatnot. But also, this Mariner team has underachieved this year. There is no doubt about that. Injuries, underachieving play, poor managing, you name it, that's happened. And obviously, I've never seen the bullpen be so beat up. Half of the guys are AAA guys, and hard to win games, when that position group is the most relied on, and half of them, are, just AAA talent. All right, Cole Wilcox is exiting now. Another injury? Yeah, I don't know. For me, though, I'd rather have Luke Raley, even though he's hurt, might be out for the year. I'd rather have Luke Raley, Dominic Canzone, Victor Robles in right over Ward. Now, I mean, I guess if you want Ward to DH, even though Randy probably should be our everyday DH, but obviously they're going to keep him out in left field. But hopefully, Ward has gotten a couple hits lately, yesterday and today. So at least that's that. But hopefully Ward gets better, if they decide to DH him and if they put him in right field, hopefully he can, steadily be a little bit better defensively. Hasn't played that position in years, so him overthrowing Cole Young, not surprising. But at least he's been able to get a hit in each game lately. But again, the problem with the Mariners is getting guys that can get more than 2 hits in a game. It feels like a lot of our guys only end up getting 1 or none. And we need to be able to get half of our lineup or close to half of our lineup with 2 or more. But that's been very difficult and challenging this season. Barbecued pulled pork. Oh my God. Pulled pork sandwiches are so good in the crock pot. That's something that tastes good, immediately. And then you can eat that, for a few days if you want to, Crock pot is undefeated. All right, now we got Josh Simpson now entering the matchup. Maybe our worst bullpen pitcher on the team at the moment. But again, the schedule in August is brutal. There's a lot of potential losses that could happen, even if we play well. It's like a lot of playoff teams, and we're going to have to really step up. And then it gets much easier in September. But if we dig ourselves too deep of a hole in August, we might not be able to recover in September. And that's the honest truth. But we got to be able to overachieve, in a few series starting tomorrow. And again, with a stronger lineup, and obviously they need to call up Cade Anderson. Again, a guy that I feel that could be honestly one of the best pitchers already on the staff. He's killing it in the farm. And again, we know right now Hancock and Miller have been a little shaky. Wu pitched good yesterday, but still is not trustworthy on the road. Kirby and Gilbert are our best 2, and I think Cade Anderson could be on that level already as the Kirby, Gilbert level, and that's honestly saying something. He's number 6 in the rotation. They're not going to have him in the pen, is what they were saying, to the media, that he's a starter only. And if we have a minor injury to any, pitcher, Gilbert, Kirby, Wu, Hancock, Miller, then the call up will happen. But again, it wouldn't hurt, to get Cade on this team. And I hope Luke Rayleigh's not out for the year. And I'm definitely missing JP Crawford as well. So. Top of the 7th inning, 7-0 Tigers. And I guess on the bright side, we didn't have anyone get suspended today. We didn't, have anybody throw any bows. We didn't have anyone get hit in the head or in the stomach or the back and get injured. So I guess we have that going for us. But it definitely was a concern based on our starting lineup today. Not having Naylor, Cal, and Donnie play. Having Framber Valdez, one of the dirtiest pitchers in the game, right after a fight could have broke out yesterday. So 1-2 pitch, and Simpson gives up a blooper on the first pitch. Runner comes home, 8-0 Tigers. Make the bleeding stop. Yeah, we'll see. There's a chance that Cade will get called up this year. There will be a chance that Cade doesn't get called up at all, and it'll be next year. But again, if an injury happens, he's next up, and they'll have to. It's not like Miller gets an injury and they're just going to keep him there. Eventually Cade will get called up. So, and based on what the Hollander and DePoto and some of the others said, that they are not going to be putting him in the pen to start off. He's going to be a starter only. So, and maybe that's not the truth, but that's what they said to the media. So 0-1 pitch, big swing and a miss, but I know Cade could help us in the pen or as a starter. And obviously Sloan is pretty good himself, but he's still a little ways away, obviously at the moment. No balls and 2 strikes from Simpson to Torkelson. 0-2 pitch, low and at the knees. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Simpson to Torkelson. That's possible too. That could happen. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Spencer Torkelson. Pitches low and away with a curveball, 79 miles an hour. 2-2 pitch from Simpson to Torkelson. Big swing and a miss, and we finally get out of this inning. I mean, when you give up 4 runs late in the game, then you start to think of Sir Anthony Dominguez, and that was just a few games ago, so. But again, weakest lineup of the year, and no one anticipated Bryce Miller shitting the bed in the first 2 innings and being down 4-0. That was not on anybody's bingo card today. But that's baseball. It happens. But now we just got to play for individual stats and hope that we can get 1 or 2 runs before the game is over. Next up in the 5 hole, second baseman Cole Clutch Young. Let's go, Cole. Batting second, 0 for 2. And the 6 hole, first baseman Weston Wilson. And batting third in the 7 hole, getting his first time to catch for Seattle since May, Johnny Pareda. Trident's up. Let's go, M's. Good, bad, and the ugly. I'll never quit on this team. 83 subs to go to 24,600. We're at 10 on the Dono train, 90 to go. And we're over 100 likes now. Let's see where we're at as we go to the bottom of the 7th, and hopefully we can get 1 or 2 runs on the board before this one is over. Some Uncle Mo for tomorrow. All right, we're at 107, 93 to go. And I am looking forward to the Hall of Fame game here in a little bit too. So me and Paisley will end up watching that, even though it's a bunch of backups and rookies. But hell, it's football, right? And if you're a fan of the NFL or college football, you just, can't wait, for football season to get going, regardless if it's preseason, Hall of Fame game, or, obviously those early college games of the, first couple weeks. And I'm a big baseball guy. I love football. Baseball and football are my favorites. So, but again, also there's, other things that I really enjoy. NASCAR Cup Series, wrestling for AEW, even though WWE isn't really the same as what it used to be. I can tolerate and enjoy, obviously, hockey and basketball. March Madness is always fun. So, there's always going to be something to enjoy and watch. But I love the NFL, college football, and baseball. Obviously, those would be the top for me. And we're just getting very close, for that NFL season, even if it is preseason, to get going. And Hall of Fame game is on later today. I'm excited about it. I like to evaluate talent, and I think that's why I'm so good at fantasy football, typically year in and year out, because I like to be able to watch all the teams, all the players, for college football, the NFL, and obviously for the MLB, not just like my favorite team. I like to be able to follow the sport as a whole, and it definitely gives me a lot of enjoyment. 1-1 pitch, hard hit ball, deep right field, back to the warning track and caught. Was hoping that Cole would hit a home run there, and that is 1 away. Yeah, UFC and boxing are good depending on who's, matching up. But again, sometimes it's hit or miss, with boxing and UFC. Like sometimes a fight will be over before it even starts with like Conor McGregor, so. Next up is Weston Wilson. First pitch is low and at the knees with a curveball, 78 miles an hour, 1-0 count. Pitch, curveball, high and inside. 2 balls and no strikes. From Framber Valdez to Weston Wilson. But, I was watching, UFC when it first started, like UFC 1, and, watching like Hoist Gracie and Ken Shamrock and, all the old school guys, from back in the day. And Tank Abbott and, going through all those old school names. And, I've been watching boxing for a long time as well, but it takes a special, fight for me to get excited about for boxing and UFC lately, And a little line drive by Weston Wilson, scratches through into left field. Nice job there by Weston. Nice job, Weston. Nice single into left. Next up is Johnny Pareda. At this point, when you're getting blasted 8-0, you're just trying to get individual stats and not to get a 0 by the end of the game. Let's go, Johnny. First pitch with the curveball, 1-0 count. I mean, I still got VHSs probably somewhere, you know, with a lot of those old school fights from back in the day. When they didn't have weight class restrictions, when you had one guy that was, you know, 150 going against a guy that was like 600, you know, like 2-0 pitch in there for a strike. Change up there by Framber Valdez, right down the middle, 2 balls and 1 strike to Johnny Pareda. Yeah, I do everything. Baseball, basketball, football, hockey, NASCAR, wrestling, you name it, I do it. And double play. And even with a bobble, the 4th double play, my God. Hard to win a game with a weak lineup. Starting pitcher Bryce Miller shitting the bed and hitting into 4 double plays today. That's not going to happen against the Rays. Let's go to the top of the 8th inning, down 8-0. It's just been a kind of a nightmare situation after Cal got hit in the stomach yesterday. Gabe Spire with a 3-game suspension that's being appealed. Dan Wilson getting ejected for a game. Good for him. Show some fucking emotion for once. And, you know, not a very good lineup today. And no Naylor, no Cal, no Donovan, and we're paying the price for it. Next up for the Tigers, 0 for 2 with a K. 0 for 3 with a K, Max Clark. Batting second in the 8-hole, 0 for 3 shortstop Javi Baez. And batting third, 0 for 2 with a run and a base on ball, Zach McKinstry. And again, you know, we haven't had too many of these, you know, where we get blasted to this degree 10, 15 times, but that's 10 or 15 too many. Yeah, but Dan's not even, you know, managing. He's suspended today, so. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Shout out to our female audience, our regulars, our OGs, and our mods, everyone watching in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Asia, and beyond. Yeah, hopefully there'll be a day that we don't have a Scott Service, Dan Wilson type. You know, honestly, imagine, like we've talked about it in the past, you know, it'll never happen, you know, but imagine if Ichiro was our manager, you know, and he got King Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson to put their photography careers on, you know, on the side, you know, as a side hustle instead of a full-time gig. And then you already got Edgar here, you know, and, you know, eventually that would, you know, give the fans some hope, you know, as well as, you know, someone that actually understands the game and is respected. But, or if we can end up getting someone like a Tony La Russa, you know, type of manager, you know, Lou Piniella, you know, Dusty Baker, you know, that kind of type. But again, those types are not really around that much anymore. You know, there's only like 4 or 5 really good managers that are around nowadays. It's a lot of former players that are hired and fired in a revolving door. They don't promote in college. Like, you can win a natty for LSU and you're not seeing that guy getting promoted to being a new manager. So, you know, it's really tough, you know, to get a good manager in baseball. It's much easier in the NHL, the NFL, or the NBA, you know, and you would think there would be better managers than 4 or 5 out of 30, but that's just the reality. A lot of them are just kind of average, you know, or below average. So now all the beats are exclusively through my boy Brooks Beats, up and coming producer here in the Pacific Northwest. So real good friend of mine. Now he's been grinding. He's made probably 154 beats in the last 6 months, you know, and he obviously has a full-time job and does a lot of running and marathons and ultra marathons and things like that. So some of his time is taken away with work as well as exercising and whatnot, but still has the time to grind on this passion as well, which is awesome. So, we try to help each other out, promote each other. 0-2 pitch from Simpson to Baez. Curveball high and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes with nobody on and 1 out. Top of the 8th inning, 8-0 Detroit. Yeah, I will never play anybody's music other than his. It's kind of not something that we have talked about, but it's just, something that I want to do. Anyone that's got a dream and a goal and that's passionate about something. And, I want to make sure that, I'm helping someone like that rather than just someone that I don't know, And a base knock there for Javi Baez. Next up is Zach McKinstry. On deck is rookie phenom Kevin McGonigal. First pitch inside with a sinker. 92 miles an hour, 1-0 count. Oh, and Simpson hits him in the leg, but that wasn't on purpose. Sweeper got away from Simpson, our worst bullpen pitcher. And McKinstry to first. Make the bleeding stop. At this point, we're going to end up losing 10-0 or 12-0 unless we can get a double play ourselves. Bash in the building. What's good? Curveball there to Malgary is in there for a strike. 0-1 count. One pitch, high and away, forcing fastball, 93 miles an hour. 1 ball and 1 strike with runners at first and second and 1 out. Top of the 8th inning, 0-0 Tigers and Mariners. One pitch, and that ends up dribbling towards third and foul. Curveball there by Simpson. 1 ball and 2 strikes with runners at first and second and 1 out. Can we get a double play, please? Slow dribbler up the middle to Emerson or Young. And a nice soft throw to first base to Wilson and stop the bleeding. We've already been bleeding out for innings on innings. 1-2 pitch, change up high and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Simpson to Malghetti. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 2-2 pitch, high and away. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Simpson to Malghetti. Tough one today, no doubt about it. Three-two pitch and gets him to pop up. Julio is there. Oh, he lost it. Julio loses the ball in the sun. I haven't seen Julio make a bad play like that in a long time, but I guess when it rains, it pours. You're already down 8-0, and Julio losing that one in the sun, and that's unfortunate. I guess it's just one of those days. I'd rather have Julio do that here today rather than tomorrow against the Rays. So appreciate you, Bo. Yeah, we got Bryce Miller giving up 4 runs. Then we had a meltdown in the 7th, giving up 4 runs. We have our weakest lineup of the year. No Cal, no Naylor, no Donnie. assuming that we were going to get in a fight today if Framber hit one of our guys, but they got off to a 4-0 lead and probably scrapped that idea. And, sometimes this happens. The Tigers have actually a good roster, even though they don't have a good record. They're kind of like us. They may not have a good record, but, the roster is good, even getting rid of Skubal and now Hao Yu Lee in the box. And, again, we just got to be able to, have a stronger lineup, and hopefully a starting pitcher doesn't shit the bed, like Miller did today, Because, again, if we could have had a 0-0 game, for 4 or 5 innings, maybe something like, the Julio 3-run blast that happened yesterday, maybe potentially could have been today again, but we hit into 4 double plays today. Julio just lost that ball in the sun. We've given up 4 runs in 2 separate innings. I mean, it's just, it's not our day. But this is the, part of the deal of being a Mariner fan. Sometimes things are going to be amazing and a lot of fun and a lot of joy, but there's going to be some pain and some, misery, involved as well. Just like in life, not everything is going to be going your way. And, I got to try to be as positive as possible to hold it down for the Mariner fan base, when it's so easy to be negative, based on what's happened this year. But, screaming and yelling and swearing and being negative isn't going to make the Mariners win more games. So, sometimes you got to have someone that's going to be at the forefront for the Mariner fan base. And, we're going to call a spade when someone does something, obviously wrong or, messes up. But, we got to try to stay as positive as possible, for this, obviously team that we know is going to go through those peaks and valleys, completely different, from what happened last year to this year. And remember, we had 20 years where we had no hope of making the playoffs. So again, there's a lot of bandwagon Mariner fans, that hopped on last year, and then hopped off, and that's fine, but again, we're going to have a lot of diehards that have been fans since the 70s and the 80s, like myself, in the 90s, in the Griffey era, as well as the 2000 era with Ichiro. So, you just got to be able to stick with it, and again, eventually good things will happen. 1-2 pitch. Popped up and out of play with a 4-seam fastball. 1 ball and 2 strikes with bases loaded and 1 out. 8-0 Detroit. I mean, this is the most talented roster that we've had since the 2001 era, so, I mean, yeah, sometimes things don't go the way that we want, but again, as far as like the talent and getting excited to watch, Julio and Cole Young and Colt Emerson and Cade on the way, and having really good role players, like Randy and Naylor and Dom, JP Crawford. I mean, for me, if you go back and look at our roster, like a starting lineup from like 15, 20 years ago, you'll be shocked. There'll be like 7 no-name players and then maybe 1 or 2 guys that you've heard of. Oh, and in foul territory, Leo Rivas falling down to his backside and making the catch. I mean, everything has just been difficult today. We've been battling the sun, and even getting easy outs has been difficult. Rivas battling the sun and falling down, but making the catch. Nice job by Leo. But if you're a fan of any team in Oregon and Washington, this is just how it is. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years to build up a contender for a championship, and sometimes you'll get there, like the Huskies, and not win against the Wolverines, but Penix was awesome, with Roma Dunzier and Jalen McMillan and all the others. And then sometimes you end up going all the way like the Seahawks did last year. So, there's a give and a take. Sometimes, you're going to end up getting there, and you win it all like the Seahawks. And sometimes you get there and you just fall a little short like the Huskies did with Penix. So, you just got to be able to stick with your teams no matter what happens, good, bad, or ugly. It's about being a true fan and sticking with your teams no matter what. 0-2 pitch to Dingler. And a little dribbler towards third and foul with the changeup, 89 miles an hour. mean, based on how this game has gone, it wouldn't surprise me if Dingler hits a grand salami and we're down 12-0, but I hope that doesn't happen. And most of the teams that I've been rooting for, are since 85. So, besides, the Kraken and, a few others. So, and that's on the corner, and that is strike three. I'm glad we didn't give up the grand salami. Next up, 0 for 2 with a K, third baseman Leo Rivas. Batting second in the 9-hole shortstop, 1 for 2, Colt Emerson. And batting third, 1 for 3 with a K, Taylor Ward. Trident's up. Let's go M's. Let's see if we can try to get at least one. Yeah, that's true. Like I said, that's kind of how it goes. There's a lot of bandwagon Blue Jay and Mariner fans that hopped off after, having a tough, season the following year. Obviously both teams making the ALCS and the Blue Jays almost winning the World Series over the Dodgers. And, again, that's just how it goes. Bandwagon fans will be bandwagon. And a hard hit ball into right, and Leo Rivas with a single. Nice job, Leo. After making a catch, falling on his backside in the previous half inning. Great to see Leo get a hit. Not the same player as he was last year. Kind of struggled in the farm. Should have called him up 3-4 months ago for Dylan Moore. And it's kind of like Rob Refsnyder. Should have got rid of Refsnyder and Garver a long time ago, just like we did with Dylan Moore. Hung on to him a little too long, but, it is what it is. Next up is Colt Emerson. Let's see if Colt can get a home run like he did last night to make it 8-2. Bash with a tour. Every dollar counts. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. First pitch is low and away. 1-0 count. Come on, Colt. 1-0 pitch. Popped up and behind the plate towards the T-Mobile bricks. 1 ball and 1 strike from Emerson. From Finnegan. One pitch, line drive, double play. 5 double plays. This will probably not happen the rest of the year. Are you kidding me? Or 4th double play. Yikes. I thought that was the 5th one. That's got to be a record for this season. I don't think I've seen us hit 4 double plays or hit into 4 double plays all year. Definitely, it's got to be a record. Next up is Taylor Ward. And Ward with this little slow dribbler. Throw to first. And that is out number 3. All right, hopefully we have a quick top of the 9th, and then we can get back into hopefully getting at least 1 run on the board before this game is over. All right, I'm going to get Paisley a snack here. $83 subs to go to 24,600. We're at 10 on the dono train. Now we're at 12. 88 to go. Robles on the mound. And we have 111 likes. Let's see if we get to 125 before the game's over. Victor Robles on the mound. This was kind of like on the 4th of July against the Blue Jays, where this type of thing happened as well. And a base hit there. Victor Robles, who's on the mound. I don't think it's the worst loss of the season because, you know, you had no Cal, you had no Naylor, no Brendan Donovan. It's the weakest lineup of the year. And then on top of that, Dan Wilson and Spire, obviously, being suspended, based on what happened last night. And then we didn't anticipate Bryce Miller giving up 4 runs, and again, if he was able to be a little bit more clean, maybe things would have ended up differently and we wouldn't have hit into 4 double plays. And, maybe we still would have lost, but maybe the game would have been a little bit closer where it would have been like, 5-3 loss or 6-3 loss instead of like this. But, and another base knock there by Colt Keith. Next up is Spencer Torkelson. Outman to second, Keith to left. Next up is Spencer Torkelson. No, because if Sir Anthony Dominguez played, we'd be down 15-0. And off the glove, and now bases loaded. Safe to say, lay down, get out of there. Lay down. Paisley's in the screen. There you go. Good girl. she was kind of hanging out by she was hanging out by one of the lights on the green screen there. She said, "Dad, I miss you." But it's safe to say Victor Robles can't pitch. And now we got Max Clark in there with bases loaded. And hopefully Sir Anthony Dominguez does better than giving up 4 runs. I mean, we already got Bizardo kind of shit in the bed lately. So, you know, we got to be able to get our pitching back on point. 1-1 pitch, high and away. 2 balls and 1 strike. From Victor Robles on the mound to Max Clark. 2-1 pitch and another blooper into right. 9-0 Detroit. She just wants to spend some quality time with Dad. Got to be able to set up the new fridge as well. Heat wave, obviously, still going on here in Oregon and Washington with the wildfires. Everyone stay safe. And then we got the Hall of Fame game pretty soon. So already went on to a couple walks with Paisley earlier today. So obviously I'll be settling in, to watch that Hall of Fame game, and looking forward to the Rays and the Mariners, obviously tomorrow, I believe. So it's going to be challenging, but sometimes we end up surprising ourselves when we end up playing a really good team. So, and hopefully we have a good lineup and we can compete tomorrow. 0-2 pitch. And another base knock into left field. That's going to score how many more runs? 11-0 Detroit. Finally. And again, obviously Dan Wilson suspended today, so you got Manny Acta making some of these calls, but it's not like we want to use any of our bullpen guys, down by, this many runs, when we could use them against the Rays. So, but then also too, we don't want to lose 20-0. First pitch high and inside, 1-0 count. One 0 pitch, fouled off and out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike from Robles to Malghetti. But as far as losses based off the score, yeah, one of the worst of the year. There's no doubt about that. One-two pitch, high and away. But damn, with Robles on the mound, who knows how long this game is going to go. I think all of us are getting to that point. Okay, let's get one more, at bat, for a few of our guys, and hopefully we get at least a run, but at this point, when you're getting beat down as badly as we are, it might end up being 11, 12, 13, 0, depending on who's up. And it ends up being a walk. Can we please get some outs? Let's go. And Lee fouls it off. But just the way that Victor is lobbing it, kind of like softball style. Who knows when this game is going to end? I want to be able to get our last 3, potential batters a chance for individual stats. We'll go read off the stats, even though there's not a lot to read off for the Mariners. And, call it a day. Watch the Hall of Fame game, spend time with the pup, and hopefully things will be better tomorrow. Line drive to Randy, finally 2 away. Next up is Dylan Dingler. Hopefully this is not a grand salami to make it 15-0. Takes a strike looking inside, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch. And Dingler pops it up. It's not going to go yard. And Randy battling the sun, finally out number 3. All right. Last 3 batters here for the Mariners. And again, we'll quickly go over the stats after that and call it a day. I am looking forward to the Hall of Fame game, though. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Next up, 1 for 2 with a base on ball, Randy Arosarena. Batting second, 0 for 3 with 2 Ks, the Italian Stallion, Dominic Canzone. Hit me with a Dom bomb, baby. And batting third, 1 for 3, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Let's go, J-Rod. Even J-Rod, a solo dinger to make it 11-1 would make me happy. $83 subs to go to 24,600. We're at 12 on the dono train, 88 to go. See if we can get close to 125 likes before this stream is over. We're at 114. Rays, Yankees, Astros, Brewers, Cubs. Who the hell put this schedule together? Jesus. Rays, Yankees, Astros, Brewers, Cubs. What are they doing to us? First pitch to Randy with the slider low and away. 1-0 count. I mean, even the Astros series to some people would be, oh, that's the easiest. But it's not like we play the Astros great every time. You know, sometimes, you know, we get beat up by them and whatnot. So, you know, not an easy series the rest of the way. I mean, it's just crazy. The top team in the American League, the second best team in the American League, and then you're going with a rival, and then you're playing teams like the Brewers and Cubs that are playoff teams. I mean, yikes. You know, that's what I said. You know, this schedule in August is one of the most challenging that I've seen in a long time, but it gets easier in September, you know, but by that point, how many, you know, games are we down? Big strikeout there for Randy. And that is 1 away. Next up is Dominic Canzone on deck, Julio Rodriguez. First pitch is low and away with a sinker, 1-0 count. Bottom of the ninth, 11-0 Detroit. One-0 pitch, hard hit ball by Dom. There we go. Nice job, Dom. I might be the only person on planet Earth that can get excited when we're down 11-0. But that's just the way things are, and that's who I am. Now let's see if Julio can end up hitting a 2-run jack so we don't lose 11-0. I'd rather lose 11-2 and get another home run on Julio's stat line. Let's go, J-Rod. On deck, Cole Clutch Young. Let's go. First pitch, big swing and a miss with a sinker, low and at the knees, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch. Big swing and a miss. Again, low and at the knees. No balls and 2 strikes with a runner at first and 1 out. Bottom of the ninth, 11-0 Tigers. It would be comical if we hit into another double play. We've already hit into 4 today, but hopefully Julio can get something. 0-2 pitch, low and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes with a runner at first. Dominic Canzone with 1 out. And Cole Clutch Young on deck. 1-2 pitch. Big swing and a miss. Down goes Julio, and that is 2 away. All right, last batter, potentially Cole Clutch Young. And Young with a little slow dribbler. Throw to first, and that is out number 3. Final score, Tigers 11, Mariners 0. Let's go over the stat line here quickly. All right, Kevin McGonigal. All right, McGonigal going 2 for 3 with 3 runs, 2 RBIs, and a home run. Gleyber Torres 1 for 4. Dylan Dingler 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. Riley Green 1 for 4 with a run, as you can see a theme here. Colt Keith 3 for 5 with a run. Spencer Torkelson 1 for 4 with a run. Max Clark 1 for 5 with a RBI. Javi Baez 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. And Zach McKinstry 0 for 3 with a run. Taylor Ward 1 for 4. Randy Orosarino 1 for 3. Dominic Canzone 1 for 4. Julio Rodriguez 1 for 4. Cole Young 0 for 3. Weston Wilson 1 for 3. Johnny Pareda 0 for 3. Leo Rivas 1 for 3. And Colt Emerson 1 for 3. Not ideal, but again, it's going to get only harder, with teams like, the Rays and the Yankees and the Cubs and the Brewers and the Phillies and the Astros. I mean, it's just an insane month of baseball that we're going to have to somehow, some way bring it together. And we're going to need a little bit of luck as well. But again, hopefully things will start to go our way sooner than later. It's definitely been challenging. Final score, Tigers 11, Mariners 0. Enjoy the Hall of Fame game if you are into the NFL. And again, I'll be live tomorrow for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I do believe that we'll bring our best foot forward starting tomorrow. And I got one question for you. Well, talk sports like us. Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, Tridents up, and go Mariners.